Welcome everyone to Faded ARPG Podcast, episode 146. My name is Capmaster OP. Welcome with me, our co-host Ballermage. How are you doing?
Hello. Fantastically. Still in love with this video game. Still want to play nothing else. No idea how I'm going to go back to PoE 1.
And it's been a decade of fun with PoE 2 and PoE 1. And there's so much that happened in all that time since the very start. And today with us we have two guests who've been there before we even entered the scene. And welcome with us Willy Wonka and Green Dude. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Great.
We're dinosaurs.
I didn't want to say it. I once called Gazi TV a fossil on podcast, and he didn't take kindly to it.
Oh, yeah, I'm even older than him, so I don't know what that makes me. Oil?
Yeah, probably. With enough pressure.
Yeah. I mean, I am from Norway, like the oil capital of the world, so it would fit. But yeah.
Great.
Been enjoying PoE as well, and I don't think I'll be able to go back to PoE 1 either, to be honest. It's that good.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to play this game again. We've seen so many familiar faces from long ago. Everybody's kind of coming back to it and reliving their nostalgia a little bit. And it's a gorgeous game, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really insane how much attention PoE 2 got. Like, not only the people like all the way from back in the days from PoE 1, everyone coming back and rejoicing and playing, checking out PoE 2, but also so many people from other ARPG communities coming together, and people you've never seen on PoE before.
And not just ARPG communities. There's been like Shroud, big names all over Twitch have come to PoE 2. Carnage. I mean, he used to always played it though, I think, but
Yeah, Co's always played PoE 1. Not every league, I don't think, but like often.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe because I'm not even sure exactly. I was not sure what to say in the intro about you guys as our guests because, like I said, I haven't been around when you made your name in the Path of Exile streaming community. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about like how you got into it and what's your background? Like, when did you first hear of Path of Exile? And
oh man, I mean, both me and Green Dude played a lot of Diablo 2, like in our childhoods. Classic into LOD for many years. Like that was the thing I did. Like when I was done with school in the weekend, I would go home and I would do Mephisto runs for like 3 days straight. That was the best thing I could do as a kid. And just through my friends and stuff, they like, oh, Path of Exile, you should check this out. And then I went to the website and there was like this countdown timer where you get a key, right? And it was like alpha or something. And I was like, okay, I'll just sign up for it. And then I got a key.
when was that?
Oof,
2011 or?
I don't even know, dude. It's like
No, that would have been 2012, right?
long time ago. I'll tell you that.
My account was made in 2012, so it must have been in 2011.
Yeah, so
I didn't do beta.
I was like, man, there's no games to play. I think I was playing like League of Legends and some shit games, and I tested it out. And my girlfriend at the time was streaming a little bit on Twitch, and I was like, okay, let me check out Path of Exile on Twitch so I can see some actual gameplay. I was like, I can do that. I can do that too. So I started playing PoE exactly the same time as I was starting to stream. So it's like I never played PoE alone ever. So that was my origin story. And then I met Green Dude like I don't know, just a few months into streaming, like I was like trying to get viewers in, giving away keys to people, right? Giveaways. And then Green Dude was like, oh, this guy's got some keys for my brother or something. I don't know, my stepbrother. And then that's how we met, at least.
Oh, so you met through Path of Exile.
Yeah. I started playing Path of Exile after doing 1 month of Diablo 3. I grinded. I was so excited for Diablo 3. I grinded it so hard for a month, playing the monk class. And then 1 month went by and I realized like this is not the game for me. So I started searching for other things, and then I hear about this closed beta for Path of Exile. And I would just waited because at the time they were giving keys every 5 minutes or something like that. So I was like, oh, I just got to wait and I'll get one. Eventually I just caved in and bought it and have not looked back since.
Didn't regret it. That's good. Yeah, I played Path of Exile. I think I also made my account in 2012, February 2012, when I first saw it on the stream of a certain League of Legends streamer called Wings of Death.
Okay.
He showed Path of Exile very early, and I was like, that looks like the Diablo that I kind of
Always
liked as a
wanted.
kid. But I always wanted to play it because when I was growing up, I didn't have internet at home, and so after like one playthrough of Diablo 2, it really, I mean, you wanted to do the online play, but if you didn't have the online opportunity,
Definitely.
it's just not the same. So yeah, I was able to relive my childhood the same way that I was never able to play Dota because I didn't have internet. I was able to get in on League of Legends when that became hype in 2010. When I found Path of Exile, it was for me. Oh, this is my generation's, or like the people's ARPG.
Yeah, that was I mean, Crip was playing Diablo 3 right at that time, Green Dude. So I think a lot of maybe even you got put on to PoE by him pivoting from Diablo 3 to PoE. I think a lot of people came into PoE that way.
Yeah, he definitely popularized it a lot, but I actually got in a little bit earlier. There was this MMORPG website that would list all the newest games, and
I think I know which one you mean.
Yeah. So me and my stepbrother would look at that and just refresh it every week and see what's new.
Free to play ARPG right now?
Yeah,
like, what's the best one? Yeah.
And when I saw Path of Exile there, I was like, oh, I got to see this, and it just looked amazing. Yeah,
I think I played all the games on that website, like Prison Tale, Conquer Online, all the free shit games. Yeah.
I tried them all. Yeah. Maple Story and
Oh hell yeah!
So obviously, Path of Exile does capture or recapture a lot of the gameplay feelings of D2. But if you would say it in your own words, like what was it for you that sold you on Path of Exile when you tried it out and when you first got hooked on it?
Personally, it was probably a combination of the passive skill tree, the infinite possibilities of the support gems and links, so you could create your own skills. Whereas in Diablo 2, you just click, okay, now I get this skill, and that's it. But in PoE, you can swap out fork, you can get chain, you can get LMP, GMP, you can put both in at the same time. You can do all this, and then ultimately the crafting, right?
The meme of putting both LMP and GMP and then dealing like 15% damage.
Right. But it's possible. You can do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to make sense. It just needs to work. And I think ARPGs, to me, the attractiveness around it is the loot element of the game, picking up an item, IDing it, and like, whoa, that's amazing. And then being able to craft it as well. In Diablo 2, that's kind of limited. You can do some crafting, but in Path of Exile, they took it to the next level with the currency is the crafting. You can add modifiers, you can remove modifiers. It's infinite possibilities. And that still is what attracts me about the game, I think.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah,
How
I'd
is it for you, Green Dude?
Yeah, I'd say that, first of all, going to 3D was actually really cool. Diablo 2 is a great game, and it actually looks gorgeous even today. But I was excited about D3 because it was going 3D, and I thought, oh, this is a new possibilities. But then it felt really console, very arcadey, too much so. And then when I looked at the trailer for Path of Exile, it was just like Willie. It was the combination of skill gems. They really emphasized that in the trailer. I thought that was really a clever twist. But then also it looked more nitty gritty. It looked dark. It looked difficult. It was at that time, the game was so much slower to what open beta was.
You could really feel the weight.
You could feel the weight for sure. Like 4 or 5 attacks to kill a white mob in the first zone it's a whole different experience today. But I appreciated that, and that's why I like things like Ruthless, and I actually am really enjoying PoE 2 for this. Even though one-shot mechanics, which we'll probably want to talk about later, is a different story. But the difficulties are really appreciated, actually.
Yeah, I remember that as well. Balor, was there something similar for you?
See, I didn't start till much later, but it was the same reasons. It was because it was hard. I was disappointed with Diablo, and I opened the skill tree and went,
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Like,
something
you know,
special.
I wish I was a streamer at that point, because I literally like had the biggest smile of just like wonder on my face when I opened up the skill tree. It was, I've seen clips of people like worried and scared about it, and I'm like, I have such the opposite reaction. I was just like, oh my god, how would I ever know what to do? And
Yeah,
that's what I wanted. I wanted to not know what to do.
And
Yeah.
the inspiration that you feel, like the infinite possibilities, that's
Yeah.
I don't think any other game has really given me that feeling that
Although-
I can figure something out here that other people haven't done, you know?
Although
Mhm.
it is worth noting, just for Cat Master's knowledge, I've made builds with GMP and LMP and Volley in them that did really good. Like, that's that meme idea. It's fine, actually. You can make builds like that.
Well, you could do it when wasn't there a time where the projectile damage multiplier wouldn't affect essence drain, because the essence drain was a projectile, but it wouldn't apply projectile damage, so you could like put all the multiple punch on it.
It wasn't that. It was corrupting blood. The skill you use to deliver it just needed 2 billion projectiles flying everywhere.
Sounds fun.
Did you guys join?
I want to play that.
Did you guys join before or after the Searing Bond meta? Because that was something special too.
That was rough. Oh, okay.
I can pinpoint you exactly when I started, and you tell me it was probably right after the Searing Bond meta, which is, I assume, must have been around the time of Sacrifice of the Vow. So yeah, I got in pretty much exactly 10 years ago in the Christmas League for 2014, which was Bloodlines Torment, right? I had dipped my my feet into hardcore during the league before that, which was Rampage and Beyond. Rampage being the softcore league at the time, and Beyond being the hardcore league. And I got my face wrecked in, dude. My first time I went into hardcore, I mean, I didn't even understand the concept of what a league is, right? Like softcore, hardcore, I got that difference, right? But like permanent versus temp league and like challenge league with the extra stuff, I just went onto Tidal Island and killed some monsters, and all of a sudden there's these blue demons which take like 0 damage from whatever I do and kill me with 2 shots.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was ridiculous, but yeah. But yeah, once I got a character to level 50 in hardcore, and then lost it in some corrupted zone, I was hooked. I was like, oh, I gotta do it again, but this time I get further. This time I make it to 60 before I die, and so on. But
so what I wanted to hardcore for a while.
I played in softcore to learn the game, right? To learn to know the end game. And that's also where I found my like unique selling point, which was I was really fascinated that it was no gold, but just the currency.
Yes.
And I didn't use the currency for a while because I played with people who already knew a little bit about the game and relate information to me that was partially helpful and partially incorrect. But then they told me just keep your currency for later, so I didn't bother. But like eventually I found out that, you know, an Orb of Alchemy is like exactly the same as the crafting bench in Diablo 2 when Charcy allows you to turn a normal item into a yellow item.
Yeah.
And when I realized, wait, that's just in a currency, and I can do this like 10, 20, 30 times. And it was such a fun thing to me. Like, yeah, getting to reveal more mods on an otherwise like shallow item.
And the white item on the ground could potentially be the best item in the gear. You just gotta give it a chance.
Could be the next big thing in your build.
Yeah.
You're lucky that your friends told you this information, because I wonder how many people mirrored like a white item or something, you know?
Oh, I have a semi-regular who in their first like 50 hours had found a mirror and used it on their very good ring, which at the time was worth like a divine and a half. They'd found it on the floor and it was way better than any other piece of gear that they owned. It was before they'd come to a stream or visited anything. And they were just like, yo, this mirror lets me make a copy of this ring. Now they put 2 rings on.
Well, he got a good story out of it, I think.
Yeah. The guy's still playing now. He's got like 10,000 hours in. So like, I mean, it's fine, but oh man, like.
So both of you guys,
50 hours.
Ugh. Both of you are softcore players, and me and Greeted are hardcore. That's going to be like something people should have in their head as we go forward, because I think we have completely different mentalities and opinions on what's correct for the game and how the game should be designed.
So
Potentially.
interestingly enough, I build all my builds hopefully to be hardcore viable in the end. I just get there a different way now because I spent my first 15,000 hours playing in hardcore exclusively. I never touched softcore for 15,000 hours. Now that I play in softcore, I'm happy to glass cannon to the end game. So I build all my damage and speed first, but I can't keep playing a build that doesn't seem hardcore viable at the end because it's still not fun. So I'm happy to skip all my defenses at the beginning and corpse rush stuff a bit to go quick. But I want it to pivot into a tanky, good defensive setup as well.
So you play so you're not supposed to die at the end game. Like you try everything you can not to die once you get to end game. Oh, it'd be interesting to see what you think in our later discussions because I think it will come up again. So,
but you guys also played a little bit of softcore here and there, right? Just to try out things. You're not exclusively hardcore.
Well, so for PoE 2, what we did is when we died on a boss, we just finished the normal campaign just to see all the bosses and learn the mechanics and what to dodge and what not to dodge. Then we went back to hardcore. I think you just kind of have to just to get a feel for it. It was also really nice to be able to hot swap characters. So for example, when I got to the spear lady in hardcore, I went back to my softcore character and just practiced the run maybe 10 times just to get the feel for it and go back. But
get the timings down and everything.
Exactly. But in PoE 1, we didn't play that much softcore. We actually, I think maybe played one league and we kind
because of some rewards, I think.
And we kind of got bored of it. To be honest, it's not that it's a boring game. It's the same game, really. But what we found, and maybe that was surprising to us, is we actually played different. It just instantly you play different. For example, we went cast on crit and we just went big glass cannon.
Fucking crit damage, no life nodes.
No life and just we didn't care. But at the same time, it was nice to experience and to see a different game. But for us, it's really like my heart literally pounds when I do like a boss in PoE 2. And that feeling, I don't get that in softcore. It almost feels more like frustrating. It's like, okay, I YOLO'd and I died and I got to start all over. But with the hardcore, it's like, I don't know. It just gives me a feeling that not very many games gives me.
I empathize with that because like what I notice in softcore is that while I can take it as serious as hardcore, it just quickly wears off and you quickly let yourself go. And it's always like, I always entertain the thought of, I should be dodging here or I should be logging out, but what will happen if I don't? Like now I'm curious because I can't lose my character anyway. Now I want to do limit testing. Like how far can I let this go? Right? Like how
Absolutely.
Yes. So you end up dying more because of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask another question, but I quickly need to change the battery on my headphones because I'm a bad podcast host and I didn't do that beforehand. And these are going to switch off any moment.
Do what you gotta do, man.
You can say bad things about me. I won't hear you for about 5 to 10 seconds.
That's all good. Right, so I have a question. The league you guys played softcore, did you feel like when you came out of that you were a better player?
No.
No.
So
I feel like it actually makes
a better player going to softcore because
really?
I got to do a whole bunch of testing of things I would otherwise have avoided.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I hated about hardcore that I still hate now is like 70% of the people who play there probably shouldn't be, and they're only playing like 20% of the game. And they don't try the other stuff. And I was one of those.
Yep.
I just didn't try stuff. And so I learned way more.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I think it does make you see more of the game. So like cast on crit is something I might not have ever done in hardcore. But I feel like for my skills, it makes me sloppier. Like when I go back, I feel like I'm always at risk of dying. And I have to get back into that mindset of like, okay, everything can kill you. Just relax, go slow. So in that sense, it made me a worse player a little bit.
Yeah, last time I played PoE, actually, I did play a little bit on softcore. I just remembered. And I got a chance to, because I really wanted to try out, because I had never really done like Uber bosses and Maven and all that. And it really gave me a chance to try and just die as many times as I want. So I mean, I would probably never do Maven unless my character was giga tanky on hardcore before I even attempted it. So I see benefits from both sides, being able to play both, and if I'm going to do any of the really hard bosses in PoE 2, I'll probably do the same thing again and go to softcore first. Of course, if I can look on YouTube and see that it's easy, I'll just do it on hardcore. But if there's some weird mechanics, then I pretty much have to go to softcore because I don't want to re-level a level 90 character, right?
Yeah, you want to do the fight once or twice at least, just to just to be like, okay, now I know what's going on, sort of.
So I would never play softcore and like amass currency and stuff. I would just ask for some items from my buddies and test out the bosses, and then I'm out. You know? Yeah.
No, but that really strikes a chord with me as well, that sentiment that in hardcore, oftentimes you go into a boss when you're like fully over prepared, right?
Yeah.
Like you never go in when you're in doubt. Is it going to kill me? Am I going to be able to beat it? But you want to be certain. And that oftentimes makes for a lot less interesting situations because you go in with the maximum of preparation. Yeah, exactly. And then like oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, I could have done this like 10 levels ago already, right? Whereas in softcore, I usually go in the moment that it gets available to me, and it makes for a lot more interesting fights there. But obviously the adrenaline, because there's nothing on the line, isn't quite there.
Bringing this particular topic into PoE 2, though, I'm going to get pushback from this, probably not from you guys, but definitely from chat and YouTube comments. I'm kind of in love with the single portal.
Yeah, I was very, very interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. Because we're hardcore players, we never die.
It does matter now,
right? Yeah.
It matters now. If I take the wrong thing and I get killed in a map because I wasn't paying attention, I'm punished.
Yes.
But nowhere near as much as hardcore, obviously, because I wouldn't want to be punished that much. Otherwise, I'd be playing hardcore. But it always feels a little in PoE 1 when you're like, I could just 6 portal defense this, it'll be fine. But now I lose the thing, and I have to roll a new map. I have to put a new map in. I lost all this extra things that were on my map. I'm like, oh man, I juiced that. It was like +2. It had a boss in it. It had breach in it. It had a ritual in it. Now it's an empty map.
You should have stacked more block chance, bro. You should have gotten a little bit more max resist. You should have, could have, would have.
Anyway, but yeah, I thought it was going to be a terrible thing. I was like, this sounds horrible, and I don't like it. And now I'm playing it, and we've been playing it for a few weeks, and I'm like, it makes everything feel like it matters more.
Yep, I think it's a great change. Just like you said, it just makes it feel like it matters more. You probably change your playstyle a little bit. You build your tree a little bit different. You gear out a little bit better. I think it brings it a little bit closer to hardcore by having.
I'll take because Balor is normally the one who gets to say something last, and then he'll take the elitist contrarian position that he's always accused of having. But no, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because in general I'm a big fan of softcore leaking into hardcore and hardcore leaking into softcore. And what I mean with that is like when they do leak mechanics in Path of Exile 1, where even in softcore you're required to do a deathless run, like Sanctum, right? Or the heist or something like that, where you lose a significant portion of what you gained or even all your rewards when you die. So I've always been a fan of that. But and the other way around with Sanctum also, right? You have you can lose the Sanctum run without losing your character in hardcore, right?
Yeah.
You can fail the Sanctum but still keep your character. So it's a little bit of softcore and hardcore. That's the other way around. But while I enjoy the general idea of the mapping only like one death, I personally find a lot of frustration in that I am also trying to get the map completion, right? Work towards the tree and all that. And it forces me into an unfun habit of me first clearing the entire map, then killing the boss, if there's a boss, but first, clearing, getting the map completed, and then I'll do any ritual or breach, because if I do that beforehand, I run the risk of not getting the map completion and being kicked out. And that makes maps take longer. Obviously, that's a choice. I could just also do it on the way there. But yeah, it forces me into this a little bit less fun gameplay loop. I would like to not be punished for taking on the breach the moment that I find it. But with the way it currently works, there's no way that I'm doing it when I find it. I'll always keep it to the end of the map.
Yeah, I think that's cool. But why aren't you doing those things though? Like, what's stopping you from doing breach? It's because your character is too weak, isn't it?
Like,
well,
I'm not trying to be like cheeky or anything. I'm just
no, but that sounds right. Like, if you're too scared to do the breach during the map, that would make if that was me, that would make me frustrated in a good way, where I'm like, I need to figure out why my character feels like it can't activate this breach until the end. Why is it such a risk for me to run over this breach hand, and how do I fix it? And then that would be the process going on that day. It'd be like, fix that so that I don't feel that way.
And you don't have to do it. Like you said, you can skip it and you can do the map and come back to it. So there's two options there. You could YOLO it or you could not, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Like, and I do realize that. All I'm saying is that I think it's a little bit an unfun gameplay loop to be waiting there. But I also see the benefit of it.
Do you feel like when you're playing PoE that you should always be able to run in a straight line and do all the content that's presented to you? Like, I should be able to do everything. Like, is that fun? Like,
I have for a while. I don't think it should have been, but I have felt like my build should be able to do everything in PoE 1 for a while. It didn't used to be that way. It's not that way now. There are some builds right now. It's early access beta. I'm sure come January, a whole ton of really good builds that are overperforming are going to get nerfed, I hope. But you're right. It's been that way for a while that we have expected a build to do everything. And I think that's going to be a huge adjustment for a lot of people. Yeah. Because I don't think you should expect your build to do everything.
But also, I also meant, like, as soon as a new challenge presents itself, like, should it be doable? Like, there needs to be, like, points in the game, I think. That's part of the joy of action RPGs is you get to, and I see a lot of people complaining about this on Reddit, like, oh my God, I'm not getting enough gear, blah, blah, blah. But, like, you get to a point and, like, my character's too weak for this. Now I need to farm this boss for, like, 2 hours to get some currency or some gear. And then I can keep going, right? But everybody's a lot of people it seems like they just want to. I should be able to just keep going. Like, I should never be stopped by the game. The game should just lead my hand forward into the future. And I don't like that mentality. I love when the game challenges me and I need to pivot. I need to, like, rethink. I need to stop. I need to pause. And I think that's a perfect example telling you about Breach, Catmaster.
And that's a perfect example of, like, the difference between standard and hardcore. For example, Willie and I were, I think, level 28. We were about to do the Act 2 final boss. And we realized, like, oh, if we just go farm and we reach level 33, we get a big weapon upgrade. That's going to make the boss fight so much faster, which in turn makes it way less rippy. The faster you're out of there, less risk. So we just went and we just farmed for 4 or 5 levels. I don't see anyone in standard thinking, like, oh, I can't face this boss right now. I'm going to go level 5 times. That's just not something. I bet you guys didn't do that so far. But that's like a normal thing for hardcore. And that then even makes the following content after the boss like a breeze, right? So,
so nice.
It makes you feel, it makes you feel nice that, like, oh, I'm not going to rip. I feel confident.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, when I actually...
Just quickly,
go ahead.
I actually played in hardcore until I ripped in Act 2. Like, my first character that I'm still on right now in softcore. Right? I played hardcore until Act 2, but I died to the first Durandus that, like, pisses off when you get him to 60 or 50%. But, like, he does the slam with the expanding and the contracting circle in the middle, where the safe is in the middle of the... Yeah, and I just didn't know what to do and died.
Wait, which boss was that?
It also hit me way too big. It's like the end boss, but the first time you meet him, when he, like, doesn't let you kill him, but he disappears after, like, 30.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
I think Durandus is his name. I didn't have a lot of lightning resist, but it also, I think I got crit really unfairly because I tried to reproduce, taking what was 423 damage at the time after I ripped and went in softcore, and I couldn't reproduce it. I always took like 300. 160, 200, and it's like, no way. And that was really,
That's an interesting,
really lucky.
Interesting topic actually.
Yeah, we feel pretty strongly about that 5% crit right now.
Yeah.
I had the
maybe
exact same experience with the knife guy, the statue guy in Act 2.
Talk to us about your hardcore rip.
Yeah, I could not reproduce it in standard, just like you. I took that knife with the exact same character a bunch of times. I could never reproduce it. But then Willie and I both died to what I think is a crit for sure. And then also Willie even died in a special way in a sense because the knife actually completely missed him. There's
I put a link on Discord if you want to show.
Oh, right. Thanks. I'll make sure.
That's when I went to standard to test it, and I tried to like hide from it. Yeah, I think that boss is bugged, but because when I did him and tested him, he one-shot me several times. But I hear people not getting one-shot, so it's kind of weird. But I mean, regular bosses all have like 5% crit chance to begin with, and it's kind of weird how that's a thing, I think, in the game, especially for hardcore players, because you can like repair to tank, let's say the executioner in normal. Like if you go there with like 400 HP, you're safe because he hits for like 350. But if he crits you, like GG, bro, there's a 1 in 20 chance you're just dead. Like if he hits you, and you can't really gear for that as you're progressing.
Okay, does this work? I'm zoomed in too much.
I don't know who said it, but they heard Jonathan talk about it, and he's like, yeah, I had to put 5% crit chance. Felt good to me. Just kept it in game. But I would argue that it shouldn't really be a thing.
All right, we got the.
I mean, it could be a rare mod though. Like on rare monster, if it says this mob can crit, like that's cool. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
And I'm also cool with it being a map mod. But I wouldn't be against at the very least the campaign just being like 0 crit. Like
everything you can
because you can become crit immune.
Yeah, you're not safe.
Oh, so he does use it,
dude. I wasn't even standing in it. The line's like way over there. Oh, it killed me.
Yeah, I missed it by a mile. That's insane.
Not even close.
Yeah. But like becoming crit immune is like a thing you can do, right? Reduce damage from crit everywhere and like so like that's a gearing avenue, but like you don't have access to that in the campaign. At the very least, I'd say no crit in the campaign is fine. You want to roll crit on a map and you die to it, that's your problem.
That's your fault, bro.
Yeah, like don't do that. But then you don't get a choice right now. So
yeah, that's something that's so anti-hardcore. It's not a mechanic that you can reasonably fix. Even those nodes that you're talking about will not save you at that time, even if you rush them. It doesn't. Thing. Yeah, there's no there's no skill to it.
Rush them as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there's no skill to it. It's just pure. Nothing should be. Like, I understand they want certain bosses to have one shots and you have to dodge them. I get it. That's a skill. Yep. And I will learn those fights and, I'll do better and I'll play better. But the fact that certain skills that are, you can build around so that you can tank them, but then you're not rewarded because there's a 5% chance you'll die anyway, even though you built a tank, discourages certain builds. So for example, Willie was playing a warrior. Now he's playing a spark. That is a night and day difference in hardcore. And I would never play a melee character right now because of this.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you play a warrior and you're melee, you got to stack defenses, you got to stack damage, you got to stack accuracy, unless you go like resolute technique. And when you're a caster, you get the damage for free on the spell. You don't need accuracy. You don't really need defenses that much. Of course, you want to try and get some, but it's just so much safer, and it feels like it's also like 3 times more powerful with in the damage department. That's my experience going from warrior to spark. It was just night and day. It felt like I was playing PoE 1 again in like power level. I'm playing spark, by the way. Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons for this is armor, the way armor works. So like your armor value, it'll say let's say 20% phys damage reduction. In reality, when the boss slams you and crits you, that 20% is not 20%. It gets crushed down, right?
Yeah.
So is the armor formula the same as in PoE 1?
We're
just assuming. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would have thought someone has done some testing already, but
There's not a lot of information. It's kind of frustrating. But something we probably could look up.
It does feel like armor's significantly better in PoE 2 than it was in PoE 1.
Yeah, a lot of
that could be, but then I've also seen people who had a warrior who were armor based and who had like 3k life, and they get crit on the monkey in Cruel, and that same monkey does multiple different slams, and they never come close to dying, but then it crits and then you die. So there's something there that either the crit is just the crit damage multiplier is way overtuned.
Yeah, they did nerf it, though. They did.
Yeah, or there is such a mechanic of like your armor is significantly less valuable against big hits.
Yeah, it definitely is still that same bigger hits isn't affecting armor as much. If I had to guess, because we don't actually know, I'd say it's to far lesser of an extent than it is in PoE 1. Like it's more effective, linear, but the same. It's like the same idea, but you don't lose as much effectiveness for getting hit harder. Is what it feels like.
Yep.
But
yeah, because in PoE 1 is like against big hits, it really doesn't make any difference whether you have armor or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just fucked. True.
Yeah, I think in that sense they've really improved the game, and because I understand why they did that in PoE 1. They just wanted things to still be able to kill you, because otherwise you can eventually make a character that never dies, right? So but I think they've achieved that with these Act 2 bosses. Now there's things that can kill you and they're telegraphed and you can avoid them. So they've kind of mastered this like Dark Souls vibe of things will kill you and you can improve your gear to not die, but you still have to dodge certain attacks. That part is great. Yeah. Just remove the 5% crit. Really, that's my main issue with it.
Yeah, you can't realistically be expected to gear for the eventuality of a crit on every single encounter. And like even if you did, wouldn't that make just the game really unexciting on the other end of the spectrum, right? Where like only if you get crit is a threat to you potentially, but everything else is like super unexciting. Like the 95% of other hits just don't do anything. They can't even hope to touch you.
Yeah, and it discourages those builds. Like, why would I build tank if I'm still gonna die to that crit chance, right?
And then if you play for a while, like let's say you're going for 100 in hardcore and you're playing thousands of maps, there's gonna come a point where you run into a blue pack or whatever, and every single monster rolls 5% crit chance. Like that's gonna happen. Like all the mobs hitting you at once will crit, and you get insta-gimps, right? That's just it's a weird like RNG lotto system with the 5% there.
All right, yeah, that's cool that you look at it that way as well. Like I've always had interesting conversations with I believe with Ziz. Ziz is a very vocal opponent of the bosses critting.
Oh, okay, cool, good. He's a big guy. He can maybe reach the guys at GGG.
Oh, well, hopefully, because he's also right. He's also caused some. He's always been bringing up how he doesn't like the. What was it? Diff cards giving boss exclusive rewards, and they moved away a little bit from that.
Yeah, certain uniques should be gated. I think that's cool. You have to go here. That's the only way you can get this item. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I also like that.
I don't
even like bossing.
Just I want to ask, did you guys see the unique item you can get if you do a no-hit run on Sanctum?
Is that the cooldown chest?
Yes. Did you see that shit?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You saw MP's thing?
Oh no, I didn't. I saw a video of somebody using it, but I don't know.
We need to show the Empyrean clip of them zooming around. Like,
he has the armor.
Yeah, and he's got a clip on Twitter of him running an entire lap of a map in must be 20 seconds.
It looks like PoE 1 basically.
Yeah,
it
doesn't kill anything.
Cracked,
by the way. It doesn't kill anything. He's that build. It was just like a how quick can I make this go? Can I get around the whole map? And then he's just
I mean, that just made me so happy when I saw that item because it goes against everything that GGG is saying and that they want for the game. And it also makes me feel like, getting an Enigma in Diablo 2. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's faster than,
Has anyone tried
cool.
cast on dodge with this? Does it work? Because you could
That's what
actually
he's
clear
got
the
on,
content.
and it does.
But
But
he
he
went
went
too
cast
fast.
on cast on dodge roll fireball, but like it wasn't a real character that test.
Yeah.
It was just a, hey, if I throw this combination on, does it work?
Yeah, it's more
So
like
nothing
how fast
actually
can we go?
died.
I love it.
Wow.
And it's such a rare item and is gated behind so much difficulty that, especially in hardcore, it won't like break the game if somebody gets it. But I can see that having a great effect on like the economy in softcore, because if enough people gets this, they can farm really, really fast.
Oh yeah.
Right. Other than that, knife bug thing, do you like the Titan fight? Other than that, it's a fair encounter.
I think it is a really, really cool boss fight. Like it's one of my favorite actually. And if it wasn't for that knife attack, because the knife attack, like it's telegraphed, but it's not like super telegraphed, and the damage is just like way too high for that kind of like a bland auto attack boss attack, I think. So if they just fix that, then I think that boss is one of my favorites in the entire game. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fairness to them, since we found out about this knife attack, I've never died to it again. I just save my dodge roll for any movement on his right hand. I just immediately dodge towards him, and then I cannot get hit by it. So it's something you can learn. But I still think it's very anti-hardcore in the first place. But yeah,
but if you save your dodge roll for every time he uses the right arm, that means you need to be able to tank anything he does with his left arm.
Yes, but that's not we're hardcore players, so it's not a problem for us. We actually just went back and leveled and re-geared, and we did not enter that fight without 75 all res. We even had some chaos res because that guy has chaos damage. So for us, we're able to tank all the other spells. The chaos one is actually just
weaker.
tickles.
Yeah.
Wait, what is his chaos damage? I wasn't aware he does chaos damage.
It's the sort of attack that does like little
red
eyeballs or whatever you want to call them, like little.
Yeah. Oh wait,
when he like moves
the projectiles,
they're like little red balls. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That one's so easy to dodge when you get the hang of it. In the beginning, I was always like, how are you supposed to avoid this? You need to be really skilled. And after a while, you find out, you stand next to him, right? And you just move with him.
Yeah.
And it's basically like a blind angle.
Yeah, and actually dodging those balls is what made me dodge right into his knife attack, because he can do the knife while the balls are still on screen. So now I just ignore the balls and just look for his right arm. If he twitches that thing, I'm dodging. That's it.
All right. Well, okay, if that boss is fine and fun, I'll definitely try out your tactic of keeping my dodge roll for his right hand. Do you have any other standout bosses that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, definitely. The spear lady is something else.
A Viper, isn't that what it is?
Viper,
Right.
Yeah, actually.
Right, yeah. Oh, that was so fun to overcome, though.
Yeah, definitely. But so when we died, we kept going on the campaign in softcore, and when we got to her, it took us like multiple attempts. I'd say 15 before.
Yep.
But the problem there is the spear attacks. So first, we didn't understand that instead of dodging the spears, you should actually just move to the next row of spearmen. That's rather than try to always time the spear. And then the final spear wave is the one that you have to just be perfectly timed.
Yeah,
and
if you don't kill her in the two first phases, they will be able to stab across the entire arena. So you got like two phases to kill her, or you're in for a bad time.
Right.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
So like an enrage kind of thing.
It's just a timer.
Well, no, the spear soldiers get closer and closer, and so then it makes it where there's one side that's not safe no more.
Yeah. The arena changes, and like that's what isn't that what people always refer to as a soft enrage? Like with also with the Elder Squid in the Elder boss fight, dropping the poop and making the arena smaller. Like I've always heard the term soft enrage being thrown around for that, but I apologize if that's wrong.
No, that's fair. And also, we had a lot of problems with that fight, not just for in terms of just beating it, but that fight is really buggy.
It's so buggy.
If you dodge towards the soldier when they are closing in, you get out of the arena. This happened to us all the time, which would instantly have cause us to have to reset. Sometimes she flies over the soldiers and she gets stuck outside. So then you got to reset again.
Just stop flying.
And then one time I dodged past the soldiers, but like kind of on top of them. And then when he would when they would point the shields upwards, it would lift my character up with them. And then I could res Willie from really far away. So he could technically just do the fight over and over, and I could range.
So we kind of
res
choose
him.
the.
Yeah, and then they nerfed that now. I saw it in the patch notes.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they fixed it.
Yeah, but that boss fight is like when you get there, most people have 0 chaos resists. So it's like such a wall that you're just smashing into with chaos damage. It's a shock. So, but now that we know about it, like we can try and get a charm with chaos damage or poison immunity. Like you can do some stuff to make it easier. But going in blind, it was rough, man.
Oh yeah, but I mean I made myself no illusions about the going in blind for the first run in hardcore in PoE early access, because I knew I was gonna die eventually. Just the question is when.
Yeah, although I do think that boss fight's cool though. Like that's also one of my favorite boss fights. It's a really cool scene. There's a little bit of a little cut scene there, punching Alva. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the dialogue. Yep.
Yeah.
I think
I also really liked
blood.
I also really liked how the cutscene with Alva doesn't repeat on like multiple attempts, right? When you die, then it's different. Then you just meet her solo, and she says something, and the fight starts.
Yeah, and the checkpoints are nice because, like, if you like quit the game or you die, like you said, you can just retry it right away. Like you're just outside the arena, so it's not that punishing to like give it another go.
I agree. One thing I would say is a criticism, though, is I feel like the knife guy and the spear lady are. I hate to say this because I like the fight, but they're overtuned for where they are. So, for example, once you do the knife guy, the game gets super easy for a long time, and when you do the spear lady, the game gets super easy. So, for example, the final boss of that act is easier than the spear lady.
Oh, and so much easier. Yeah.
There's a disconnect there where it's like you just went through at least for our perspective in hardcore, where you went through the most stressful fight ever and you barely survived, and oh my god, your blood is pumping. And then after that, the content is like a breeze all the way to Cruel Act 2.
The like little cool like high-tech arena or area before Doriani, the mobs feel like they're from Act 1 or something. Like they instant one-shot everything after that boss. It's kind of weird, but it's early access. I'm hoping they'll just like rebalance that a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably also because you just prepare so much for these big boss fights, right? Where you're like, okay, this is a big roadblock in hardcore. We better take everything that we can do, and then you prepare and you gear up so hard, and then afterwards everything feels like a breeze. I also honestly had the same feeling. Like towards the end of the acts, the zones and the monsters get like really oppressing. Like specifically, end of Act 2, right? And then afterwards, when you're arriving at the first act in Cruel even, or like just the beginning of Act 3, it just feels so much easier in terms of mob types and like attacks that you have to expect, incoming damage.
Yeah, I don't mind going from one act to another, being like, okay, you just beat a final boss. Give the player a little bit of breathing room, but especially with the Viper before Doriani, it's like, okay, you're going into the final fight. Why is it getting easier? At this point?
Exactly. The peak difficulty shouldn't be in the middle of the act.
It should be going up towards the boss fight, right? Like the final boss. Yeah.
Like Doriani, we skipped all his mechanics. We actually killed him so fast that we just couldn't believe it, and we didn't even have to dodge any lasers or anything. You just instantly.
I don't really know what that boss does, honestly. We just kill him. It's so easy.
I suspect he has less HP or resist than the spear lady, and so that's where I'm saying like something just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
You guys linked a bunch of graphics in the document. You're gonna tell me when I'm supposed to bring them up, right? When there's context. Okay, I got them brought up here in the browser and in the order that you linked them, but I'm not sure at which point I'm supposed to show which one.
I can talk about some other bosses I like. I like Act 1 final boss. So well designed. It's cool.
Which one?
Final boss
Count Geonor.
The wolf ice.
The wolf
fight.
fight.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's multiple faces, cool dialogue, and I don't know. I like that point in Act 1. Act 1's really just beautifully designed. I feel like It feels like PoE1. Like you go through it. It's very smooth. The difficulty is like just right the entire time, and it just climaxes with that perfect fight there.
It might also have been like the most polished one, right? The one that
Probably,
they started
yeah.
with and spent
By
so
far.
much. Yeah.
It's
That's-
definitely the most polished act.
That's one of the standout bosses for me. I also like what's it called? Is it like Ectol or something? It's like the mammoth boss in Act 2, the double boss. I think that's kind of cool. Where they like revive like an old boss. Do you remember?
In the bone pits.
The bone pits,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
That one was enjoyable. Because there's a lot of shit going on in that fight. Like you got this thing trying to charge at you, and then you have the caster making like bullet hell flying around. It's very chaotic. It was fun on the first playthrough, first few times. So overwhelming. I did write down some other bosses that I thought was interesting. I don't know if you have any favorites.
The Ekbab fight I remember is like it's a little bit different depending on whether you kill the mammoth or the necromancer
Yeah.
first, right? Like, and then they gain abilities, and it becomes a different challenge. I think like last time I killed the mammoth first, and then the necromancer was really annoying, and I was like, never again. Next time I'll kill the necromancer first, but I don't know what happens then. Probably gonna dislike that as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a one-shot coming straight up. When he charges at you, probably does a lot more damage.
Okay. I'll be aware of it. I'll probably do another run in HCSSF because why not, right? But
Why not?
I'm
Especially now
wondering
that- Yeah, why
whether
not?
I'll make it there.
It goes straight to
And that-
standard.
And that leads into an interesting topic, which is why not keep it this way, right? When the leagues come out,
Yeah.
why can't we just have it where whatever the league name is, we just go from that league to the softcore league rather than Perma League? I think that would encourage. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a hardcore player, and I want to see more hardcore players. But I think it's healthy for the game to say, like, check out this hardcore mode. Your first character, it doesn't matter if he dies. And then some people might hate it and just keep playing that character. There's no downside. While others might think, wow, hardcore is actually really exciting and I love this and I want to stick around. I think it's healthy.
Yeah, when
Well,
you're
the big problem would be that the people who are exclusively playing softcore would have to be aware of the hardcore ladder at the same time. Like basically the softcore ladder would have to be including the hardcore ladder as well. So if someone's ahead of you in hardcore, because when they die, they'd be ahead of you in softcore all of a sudden. Someone would pop up in front of you on the XP ladder. And I think that's been what's keeping them back.
yeah,
But that's
hardcore
already
players
that
play
way.
with a disadvantage though. So like, does it really matter?
No, but it not only does it not matter, but it's already this way. When you play solo self-found, at any point you can go into the regular league. So there are people in solo self-found that are actually higher level, and when they convert over, they pop into the ladder, and we've never had a problem with that.
Well, but in solo self-found, you're at an inherent disadvantage, whereas in hardcore trade, you might have advantages over softcore trade because of the availability of certain things.
It doesn't matter because right now the softcore solo self-found hardcore is higher level than the regular hardcore.
Yeah,
like literally the best players go there, and so they're actually number one on both ladders technically. So
yeah,
it's a non-issue really.
Well, I always like the idea of having a separate, but you know they try to not cut the player base into parts too much. But I always like the idea of having a separate league, just like a graveyard temp league for the people who died in hardcore, and where they could like continue.
that
But
shit would be
the
dead
question
as
is,
hell. That would be a graveyard.
Yeah, and it was the perma leagues. No one played hardcore there.
Yeah,
It was completely dead.
it was dead.
So it's not healthy for the game to split their population in too many leagues. I think, and this goes for a lot of other games that have done that as well. So this is kind of like a solution because solo self-found can go back to the regular league, the trade league, if you want to call it that. Then the hardcores can go to standard. Just everybody is like possibly connected in some way, so that it's just healthy to play whatever you feel like, and then to continue whenever you feel like.
Because if it's a new league and it's exciting and your friends are playing softcore and you want to go hardcore, a lot of people are going to choose not to go hardcore. And I think just me and Grenade both would just like to incentivize people to come into hardcore and give it a shot and at least try it. And if they fail, they still get to play with their buddies in softcore in whatever new league is out. I think that's way more positive than the negative side effect.
I feel like there has to be a reason that they don't do that. And I feel like they've addressed it before, and I just can't think of any good reason.
Yeah, because like
There
whatever
has to be
little.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not like we're at an advantage and we're going to come in and ruin the standard economy. You guys already ruined it yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Our economy is healthy.
It's already fucked.
Don't worry about that. There's no good economy on standard.
Yeah, so I can't come up with any
Softcore.
reason on their behalf. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear their opinion
Yep.
and their insight on something like that, because I definitely welcome the sentiment of wanting to ease more people into playing hardcore, because I've definitely seen people in the past going from softcore to hardcore and enjoying it more than they expected, right? And
Yeah.
sort of licking blood and feeling the taste of it. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, I normally start with a group, and if that was the way, we would 100% all start in hardcore. And the first person to die would just be the loser for the whole league. The rest of us would all immediately die, so that we could just continue in softcore.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
We would just intentionally die, but it would be like who's the first person to be a loser?
Yeah.
And then
Who's
and
going
then
to cause
you'd
the
be
whole
loser
group
for the rest of the
to
league.
kill themselves? Yeah.
Ruin the
Yeah.
fun for everyone.
Yeah, who's the first shitter who dies? That would be a fun little mini game at the start of the league, though.
That's fun.
Like, don't be the first shitter to die in the group.
Yeah, and because this is like the only time where this is happening, right? Where a hardcore goes into the main softcore league right now. Pretty much every big streamer has started in hardcore, and it's been such an enjoyment to see the compilation of deaths. And there's no cost to it, right? Those streamers just kept, like Ziz, for example, died. He kept going in standard, so he's having his fun. But then we got these amazing rip videos from all the big streamers because they started in hardcore. There's no cost to it.
Yeah.
That would be just great to have that every league. I would love that.
I can't think of a downside, so
No. Checkmate, atheists. Fix it.
no. Because like even if you're like, I'm not a hardcore player, you just be like, okay, just do it anyway. You'll
Yeah.
die on day one. See how far you get. It'll be fun. Just continue on.
Yeah.
all right, are there any other bosses that you wanted to highlight before we
Yeah,
move
I
on
have
to
one
a
more.
different?
I got one
One
more.
more.
I think this is my favorite boss. It's Torgold the Defiler. You know who that is?
The towering skeleton that falls over all the time.
Yeah, he just looks badass, dude. That's the coolest boss.
It looks badass, but I still haven't found out how to correctly predict when and where he will be falling.
Yeah, it's kind of. I almost ripped to that actually once. It's kind of unpredictable, but it's
Yeah. His biggest slam is where he turns around really quickly and slams, right? So you could argue that the best strategy is to stand on his sides, right, where his shoulders, because then he will never slam you. And in the front, he does another attack, so you don't want to be there either. But it gets hard because there's a burning ground, so you might not be able to stand there.
Yeah, you just campfire rest, and he's pretty easy. But he's still my favorite. Like, good, cool moves, arena is interesting, and he just looks badass. Cool animation. I just appreciate all the bones being animated as he assimilates. How about you guys? Any favorites?
I think the first time I got there, I really liked the hyena dude.
Hyena dude.
Because it's
with
in
the
Act
spears.
2, before you enter town, I think actually, with the spears and
dude.
Because it's such an acquired flavor, and then when you kill him, you get swarmed by this big pack. And before they patched it out, you had the extremely threatening collision, or like how you call it. Like you couldn't dodge roll out with that buttery smoothness, but you could. Yeah, there was actually a lot more punishing positioning mini game.
It was very scary when all the mobs closed in on you pre-patch.
Yeah, how do you like the change, by the way? Because I could see some hardcore players liking the more punishing version, including myself.
So for
I have mixed feelings.
On the smaller mobs, like it works, but on the bigger mobs, it doesn't work. Like you can't push through bigger mobs. they won't move. So I feel like it feels pretty good. But I'm playing Sparks, so the mobs don't really get close to me anymore. But
it was quite punishing in the beginning when the tiniest beetle in Lost City could swarm you, and there's just nothing you could do. Yeah, so I think it's a good change overall. Yeah, I think also the problem you also encounter is like it gets very desyncy as you start to get swarmed, and I feel like that actually just helps the game stay in sync. It's like, okay, I'm dodging in this direction. The server knows exactly where I'm going to end up.
Yeah.
So I think it's a positive change.
I was screaming that I wanted phasing added back in until they made that change, and then I'm like, that actually feels way better.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm good now.
Okay. I was a little bit disappointed because I like the super punishing mini game of having to pay attention, but it ultimately, like what I said earlier about the only dying once per map, making for a gameplay style that is ultimately less interesting, in my opinion. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, now that it's changed and I can roll out 90% of times, I play way more risky. Like, I push way harder forward in the map. Whereas previously, I planned ahead and I was like, okay, I could get stuck here, I could get stuck there, I need to kite back. And, like, it was just very, in the long run, not the most interesting gameplay, I think.
So, well, it sounds like you might enjoy hardcore then, because that solves your problem right there.
Well,
come to the
you wouldn't play. You wouldn't, in the sense that you wouldn't play risky, even with the dodge, right?
Well, a little bit. You need to go fast, right? Need to take some risks. Because the hardcore player that takes risks is always going to be ahead of the hardcore player who doesn't, right?
Wow.
I disagree. If you're trying to get number one ladder, sure, you're totally right. But what we actually found is like slow and steady wins the race. Everybody's dying ahead of you. On the first day, I was rank 40 in hardcore, and I was not pushing ladder. Willie was streaming. He's like, hey, I'm going to take 10 minutes to go gamble some rings. I'm like, okay, I'll just sit in town, right? Like, I'm not rushing, and I'm top of the ladder. So, yeah, I don't agree necessarily. But if you want to be number one, then for sure.
I think you never win number one without taking risks.
No.
But what happens is 20 of the best players take risks and 19 of them die, and then Ben wins. And then whoever's left wins their first spot. But I have 3 demis from hardcore races in solo self-found that are all third place.
Hey.
So I can tell you can win third place by taking it easy and just being a bit safer and a bit slower than letting everyone die in front of you.
Yep.
Because that was always my play.
Yeah.
My play was just to play enough, play fast enough that I'm like on the ladder and hope everyone in front of me dies.
But in PoE 2, you're not supposed to go fast, right? Like that's the game, isn't it? How do you feel about that? Like the slowdown of the game and movement speed being like impossible to find?
I love it, except, oh man, people are gonna hate me more. I should get used to this. I love it, except there's things like the monk I'm playing right now, and like the demon mommy spark, and like things that are. There's like 3 or 4 builds already out that just look like PoE 1 builds, like just whole screen blows up, boom, scream through, use and blink and all that sort of stuff. And I loved the slower, harder game. But if you let just 3 or 4 builds like that exist, they become not really the only options, but they kind of become the only options, right?
Yeah, you see a warrior doing a leap slam, and it takes like 3 to 5 business days before he lands, and it's like, stark contrasts.
There's also some things that when you're playing a more balanced build don't feel quite right. Like if you're playing a warrior trying to collect breach splinters, good luck. If you get a breach splinter every breach, you've done a pretty good job at the speed that character goes, and you need 300 of them. But if you can play full screen explode, you'll walk out of every map with 15 splinters. And you're like, well, now I can get 300 together and do a breach pretty easy, right?
Yeah, Spark, like, I'm clearing like a whole screen outside my own screen. Like Everything
like
is
2
dead
screens,
in this
honestly.
area. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
alive in this.
9
And so
screens.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the harder, slower game, but and I don't expect this right now because it is super early beta and it's Christmas break. I know for a fact GDG's on Skeleton Crew right this second. Like there's practically no one in the office, right?
Yep.
So we're not going to see those changes until like mid-January, right? People are going to come back somewhere around the 5th or 10th or whatever, and then start working on balance and whatnot. But like, they do need to decide pretty early, are these things okay? What's the maximum speed we're happy with for the release of this game? And we're going to have to cull down all the ones that are popping out on top. It was always going to happen. I'm not like upset that it happened. It was always going to happen, right? There's only so much testing you can do. You give it to, we're still getting peaks of like 600k a day on Steam. So that's going to mean there's more than 1 million people still playing every day. Like they couldn't have tested for everything. There was always going to be stuff that got through, but we have to decide what's the maximum speed and cut everything above that sooner rather than later, or we're all going to get used to that speed again.
Yep.
And if we get used to that speed again, it's real hard to take it away.
But if you look at like all the builds together and average it down and you see what kind of speed increases can they get, with the exclusion of blink, you only have your movement speed on your boots to rely on. Like I'm clearing at the clear speed of my movement speed on my boots. Like I can only go that fast. Like that's max. And then you have blink, of course. And I don't know. I feel like there should be more options. There are some passes in the tree, but not really. At least not for the top of the tree. There's like no movement speed, and it doesn't seem like there's any worthwhile uniques either you could get. I feel like I'm a little bit starved of a movement speed. Just give me like 20% or something, and I'll be happy.
I really like the more difficult gameplay and the slower, like more methodical combat style.
Yeah, they're definitely balancing all the bosses with how much movement speed they're making available for sure. Yeah.
I was talking about movement speed to my stream the other day, and I was saying I would like it if actually boots were probably capped at 20% being the best movement speed roll. Wait for it. Don't jump in yet. I want that to be part of the boot, not a roll.
Yeah, just like the charm should be a part of the belt.
Yeah, like part of the boot, not a roll.
Yep.
And everybody should get 5% more than they've got just at base, literally at level 1 on the beach. We're just a tiny bit too slow. But also, I think there should be a progression of movement speed on my character. Around
like every
about
10 levels, you get like
around
X%.
about 2% an act. So I've got an extra 12 by the time I get to maps. You'll note that this puts me in front of where 30% movement speed boots would be, but not by much. And then my boots would only have a range of like 10 to 20-ish. So all characters would get like a base movement speed that if you were to roll shit movement speed boots, because that's the part of the base, you would be about where you are now or tiny bit slower. And if you rolled the best movement speed on boots, you'd be around like 5 to 8 to 10-ish at most % faster than you are right now, but with less variance and more of it built into my character.
Yeah, they could also just remove the movement penalties on items. They're kind of lame. You're wearing a shield and you just get punished for wearing a shield. They run slower. Ugh. It's not fun.
That makes sense from a flavor point of view, though. That's realistic.
It does, I know. But you could work it into...
It's realistic. I play a glowing staff build right now where I put extra channel into my staff, and then when I swing it in the air, laser beams shoot out. I don't need to worry too much about
encumbrance. Yeah. My inventory is filled with like 8 armors, and they're not slowing me down.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. True.
Yeah.
That's weird. What I would like to say about movement speed, just quickly, I agree. I don't mind the slower and more methodical combat, But
Yeah.
the situations where I find myself frustrated with the amount of movement speed I have are not the combat situations.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
the
They're
situations
between
where I have to backtrack for half a minute or a minute through my map because I cleared the wrong end of it, and then there's something on the other side that I need to clear to get the complete, and I need to walk all the way back.
Totally.
And yeah, if there was
Yeah.
some way, some ability, something that gave you a movement speed buff while you're outside of combat,
Yeah.
while you're
Yeah,
trying to get
A
like
mount,
mounts.
for example.
yeah, but the mount is
Not
not
mounts,
going
though.
to give you move speed.
Imagine
That's
the
just
money they could make on MTX. I mean,
Yeah,
come
no,
on.
but
please.
they should do it. They should make mounts give you a movement speed increase, but anytime you take damage, they go away.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that totally works.
That'd be cool. But they could also just take what they have in the base game and just move some checkpoints into the maps.
Actually,
just like
checkpoints in the maps would be fucking massive. That the campaign that I leveled with just now, the one that I've like just about finished, is the first one I've done with all of the checkpoints.
how is
Oh,
that?
that's so much better.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was like
that's
night
so
and
much
day
better.
leveling.
Even when you're like, oh no, I have to be over the other side of the map, and then you're like, wait, 2 screens away, there's a waypoint just there.
Yeah, just boop.
We'll just pop over to that and go, choo. And the other, that's nice. Give me that in maps though, because the amount of times I get to the end of a map and I look up and it says 6 mobs remain, but it's not complete, and then you open it and you're like, where are my arrow keys? Where are my arrow? Oh my god, it's all the way back there. And I don't like that. I don't want to be running all the way back through my goddamn empty map.
I think everybody would celebrate if it was implemented. I don't think anyone would complain. Unless Capmaster maybe wants to be the last guy to speak on this subject.
What particular question?
An argument against the waypoints in maps? Do you have any?
No. Waypoints are super.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was thinking maybe a shape-shifting skill when Druid comes around, like shape-shift into a flying monkey man and just
On a cloud.
a raven, I guess, or I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see. What kind of
Right, so we got to get into like your screenshots that you wanted to share, because you attached here 3 pictures of skills or supports to the what was your overall experience through the campaign question on the outline, and I'm so curious what you're trying to say with that.
Yeah, so first the topic, I don't know if you want to get into this one or another one, but the topic is about gems and like the new gem system. Do you think that's too early to talk about?
No.
Let's go.
No.
Let's do it.
Okay.
We're
Okay,
fine.
so there's a lot of great things about PoE2. The graphics, everything creative, the music, the bosses are cool too. I got plenty of good stuff to say, so I don't want to sound too critical. But I personally think the whole gem system is a huge downgrade, and it's also unintuitive, despite the fact that they said it was so intuitive. And to
what you
prove
think
this,
works.
Yeah, Jonathan said, if you can think it, it works. Well, it doesn't. So we're gonna play a little game right now with you two. You guys
We're
can
gonna fight.
Yeah, well, let's play this little mini game, and then you can tell us what you think is your answer. So you have 3 gems up, right? Martial tempo.
Yeah. Should I like bring them all up on the same screen at the same time?
Yeah. Just let's show them all and have a look. So we got martial tempo. It gives attack speed.
Okay.
And we have
brutality.
Brutality, which it does more physical damage. No chaos, no elemental. That's pretty cool.
Right.
And then one
the
more.
third
we have
one was last gasp.
Last gasp. So if you don't know, that one makes it where when your minions are supposed to die, they instead stay alive for an extra 4 seconds.
Sure.
Okay. So I was playing SRS. Okay. And now one of these gems does not work with SRS, and the other 2 do. So can you guess which one doesn't work
with SRS?
Sorry?
Last grasp does not work with SRS.
Okay. And what about Capmaster? What's your answer?
Which one doesn't work with SRS?
I mean, I'm inclined to believe that Balor knows because he played a summoner. So I'd say that, but
I never linked any of those to SRS even once.
Oh, that's
so
perfect.
I have no knowledge on it at all.
Yeah.
No, but I'm also biased because you said it's unintuitive to tell which one it would be, and since this one does have the minion tag, you would assume that it works with SRS, but I don't. SRS is a skill granted by the Ascendancy, right? It's not even like a.
No, it's a spirit gem.
It's spirit gem, right? Exactly. So maybe it doesn't have a duration, and so it wouldn't work because of that. But it probably has a duration. I mean, there's no point in linking brutality because it would just, deal no elemental damage.
Brutality would hurt you, but it would link. But it would be bad, but it would link.
Yeah, I'll just say martial tempo. Just say something different.
So it was martial tempo, and Balor said last gasp, right?
Yeah.
You're both wrong. It's brutality.
Brutality doesn't work.
Yeah. So
really?
try to figure out why brutality doesn't work, because I haven't figured it out.
But they only convert 70% to fire.
80%.
80%? Sure. Okay.
Okay. Like, I'm not gonna.
There's physical left.
Yeah. It should work. It does physical damage as a base, and then it gets converted 80% to fire. So it should work. I'm not saying it's a good gem for the build, but I'm saying, like, why doesn't this one work?
Everything you think works.
So, and then I also noticed people in your chat said, "Oh, it has to be last gasp." If you can bring that one up, that one should not work because it says supported skills that create persistent minions.
Yeah.
So it should not work on non-persistent. And then even more counterintuitive is, do you know the skill Unearth?
Mm-hmm.
It's I'll explain it for people. I'll just sure. Basically, what you do is you cast a physical spell in a cone, and if you do it on corpses, it reses these scorpions, so they're temporary minions. Yeah, this skill right here. So the bones of corpses in the area are ripped out and reassembled into short-lived bone construct minions. So short-lived. So these ones are temporary. So they are not persistent. And last gasp works in this one
as well. Wow.
Sorry. Last gasp doesn't work in this one, but it works in SRS. But both of them are.
So I get it.
So it doesn't make any sense. Why would the gem not work in these guys, but SRS does, but brutality doesn't? It's the whole thing is backwards.
So chat's probably got it why my brutality doesn't work because it supports skills that hit minions, and SRS is not a skill that hits; it's a skill that summons.
Yeah, but
then martial tempo doesn't work.
Yeah. Martial tempo doesn't say skills that hit.
Yeah, but if you read martial tempo, the wording is like no different than brutality in the sense that both of them imply the same thing. If you compare side to side, you see that they're both talking about attacks. So it's really, and either way, like even if someone in chat like feels differently or like on a technicality,
we all got it wrong.
No, it's definitely weird and wrong. It's just
Raging Spirits do have the persistent tag for whatever reason.
No, you're looking at PoE 1.
That's
no, it's not. No, this is a buff. That's not PoE 1. Also, I don't think persistent tag is a thing in PoE 1, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh.
But none of this. Okay, so my I guess argument here is that while some of this is weird and definitely wrong, and you're right about it being confusing, none of that takes away from this being a better system.
Nah.
It's just a better system with some bugs.
No. Use one gem. Ugh.
That's my favorite part.
Oh, fuck my life, dude. I hate it.
So that's a slightly different topic. Like I can explain why I think it's a worse system, but I just first wanted to show why it's an unintuitive system. There's actually a lot more.
But I get your criticism as well as like Balor like saying, but that's not really showing why the system is a bad system. That's a flaw that would have existed outside of the system as well. Like even if we had the old socketing system, like stuff like that existed in PoE 1, like unintuitive interactions between support gems and main skill gems and inconsistent tagging behavior and all that, right? I mean, we could find examples for this very sort of thing in Path of Exile 1. That doesn't have anything to do with the specific system.
Yeah, to clarify, my point about this system being worse is a different topic. It's just, I quickly mentioned it that I think it's a worse system. This is a different thing. This is an unintuitive system that they advertise as it just works, and that's not true.
Yeah.
That's my first thing. But in terms of why it's a downgrade, I can go through that. So first, it's way less creative. So it is definitely made to appeal to people who are new to the game. Everything they've done is to try and make the game easier to get into. So WASD works for console, where it feels good on PC as well. Things like that. The ability to mouse over certain keywords is beautiful. It's in game. They've just done a great job of like welcoming new players, and I think this system does welcome new players. It's very it's a lot better in that sense. However, you cannot be as creative with it. I don't think that part's arguable. First, the fact that you can only have one support gem automatically means you're limited more than PoE1. Another thing is that actually is not that intuitive, I guess, is the whole cutting gems and then using Evol Orb on them and getting +1 or getting like an additional socket. It seems the new players don't realize that this is a thing. I tried selling, for example, a +1 gem, and people did not understand that it was +1 or like how that mechanic works. That seems unintuitive to some people, but creatively, it's just, in my opinion, it's way worse. It's not, you're limited to these builds that they created on their end. And I feel like every build is one of those builds with minor variations. Whereas in PoE1, I felt like I could just make anything, whether that's true in terms of like good gameplay, like whether it deals good damage, maybe not, but I could do anything. I could link everything. I could do anything, even if it was stupid. Like you said, LMP, GMP in the intro, it's not a smart thing to do, but I can do it. Whereas here, I feel like there are certain mechanics that are like, they for example, they have a ton of downsides. So it's like, oh, I can't link this one or that one because now I have no more cast speed. And like, I don't know. To me, that seems like they wanted these archetypes and they themselves made these builds. And it's like, oh, I have to use Frost Nova with Frost Wall to do any damage. Frost Nova will never be good on its own. I need Frost Wall. Or, for example, with the grenade, I can throw a poison grenade, and yeah, it deals damage, but it deals almost no damage. And then when I ignite it, now it does a big explosion and it does great damage. The night and day difference between when I played Mercenary, the poison degen, and the explosion, if you like light it up with Firewall, is just night and day difference.
You have to,
so
basically. Yeah.
You basically have to. It's unplayable without it. So these are the types of things where I feel like they're just pushing us in these specific builds that they play tested with. And if you don't do the 2-part combo or 3-part combo in some cases, you're not going to have any meaningful damage.
Yeah, and a lot of skills are linked to certain weapon types too. So like you can't be creative in, I'll take this skill and use it on this weapon or in another way.
That's something I noticed as well. Yeah, like that most skills only work with one specific weapon type.
Yeah, and when they launched when they showed like gameplay trailers in the past, and they were like, oh, you can get 6 link on every skill, you know. But even if you get a 6 link, you don't have enough gems to support them because they're used in your main skill. It's like you got to be creative and put in some bullshit supports that like, okay, this one will give me a little bit more shock chance or whatever because I don't have anything else to choose from. So like the whole thing about like, you can have multiple 6 link isn't really that big of a deal in this game. Like it's not that hype anyways.
I agree with more of what you said than I thought I was going to. but still not all of it. Most importantly, I have been forced to bring creativity with this system far more than I have ever had to in PoE1 for any build.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. Having single limited support gems, specifically in builds that have multiple attacks that I would normally have scaled the exact same way, has become far more interesting to the point where there are currently, in the last 48 hours, 5 versions of the build I'm leveling out. And not one of them is using all the same links and all the same skills. And how I'm planning on doing it is different again to all of those videos.
Right, but
but we're using the same 2 skills, but it's not even the same 12 support gems, let alone on the same skills. Right?
Yeah, but
like
you're being creative, but in a box that is limited. Do you understand? You're finding creative ways of finding solutions to problems that they created by making it super limited.
Maybe, but they create every problem. They create every problem and also every solution. They always have. So I don't know that that's necessarily relevant. The important bit
in the
for me
sense
is
that like
there's
sorry,
2 things that are important to me in this situation. One, having to use different supports has made me really, really consider what situations I would use them in. Whereas in PoE 1, I'd just be like, if the correct support is Wed, Inspiration, Crit Strike, Crit Damage, and I have a single target and an AoE clear, they just get the same ones. And those are the supports, and there is nothing to think about, and there is no discussion to be had. Those are the supports. Whereas in this game, well, do you want to put that there? Do you want to put that here? Should Martial Tempo go in my single target because it's going to make that stack up its spell faster? Or should it go in my clear skill where I'm using it more often and then it'll feel better for the map clear, but then I won't have it for the single target? All that sort of stuff. I think that where the problem comes in is the amount of coming soon gems that are on every goddamn page. And that's what's actually limiting your feeling of being able to make choices, is because you're missing over half the support gems. And I think when we get the rest of them, you might feel a lot better about it because there'll be way more options.
Yeah,
that's very possible.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was gonna exactly say, do you think that will still feel the same with all the ones coming out that we're currently waiting on?
It's very much possible that I will have a different opinion. Yeah. I'm willing to be proven wrong, and that seems like a really good way to do it.
Yeah.
I just think that there's some limitations that are like being a little bit force fed to us. So I think maybe I would have to apply it on a gem by gem basis. Like maybe my feedback would be this gem has too much of a downside, or this gem feels way stronger than all the other ones. So maybe that would help. But I still feel like PoE 1 I see as a complete sandbox. You could do anything you want. Whereas this, it's like they've coded these mechanics into these skills and they want you to use these skills in these ways. There is no other way to use that skill. Sure, you can argue about whether, this support or that support, but you're so limited in your choices. In where we might have, like, let's say 5 gem options, and you think it's creative to swap in those 5, in PoE 1 you would have every gem. And again, it's not necessarily good. The build might suck, but you have that option. And I also noticed in chat, some people are saying, well, in PoE 1, everybody's using guides, so it's not creative. Well, I actually think that proves my point, because it is so sandboxy and you can do so many things that people feel overwhelmed, and they go to the person who actually figured it out creatively to then say, what can I play? Because I can't figure out this crazy nonsense. Right?
They only want to play the best, so they don't allow themselves to have mistakes
that's actually,
and learn.
Yes, it's not actually an argument for PoE 2 in that sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder how I will feel about it when I make more builds, right? Like right now on the 1 build I'm on, I thought it was fun, but then I also don't have that many, high links yet. I don't even have a single 6 link, so yeah.
But it's cool when you can take a melee ability for, let's say, of course we don't have daggers in the game right now, but you could take a skill from one weapon to another and use it on multiple weapon bases. But it seems like a lot of the skills are like, this is a staff skill, like this is a mace skill.
Yeah. No, I've definitely seen that as well. I wonder whether there's going to be expansions or like updates where they'll just be like, hey, this skill works with this weapon type now as well, instead of giving us completely new skills.
I get it, because they probably have to make a lot of animation. The animations are really good in this game, and if you got to make it for multiple weapons, I get it. You can't just have a generic, like, whatever, he just stands like that.
So there were 2 of those parts that I agreed with pretty heavily, which was like the weapon restrictions are like in PoE 1, it's like this only works with these 4 or 5 weapons. And in this one, it's your staff skills work with staffs. Wear a staff. And I'm like, well, okay. But like, I want to wear a staff and use one of the Mace Bonk skills because that would be cool. Can't do that. Okay.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could do that, then I could make a Dark Monk who could benefit from Leech because all of the Leech stuff is physical and then all of the staff skills convert like 80% of the damage to elemental, and then I can't use the Leech, which is half of that Ascendancy. And then, so like there's those, that is something that I also agree with. And also, I don't know how many of alts people have leveled, but right now the level 4 and the level, I think it's 9 or something, the second tier of Spirit Gem, and that's worth a div.
Oh really? Wow.
Because you can't get them. The only way to get them is in like a 4 zone area while leveling. So if you want to prepare an alt and like have Twink gear to level, and you want to just be able to put on all of your auras, you can give yourself like 160 spirit at level 1. You can't use any of it until level 10, but you can have it. But then at level 10, you're only going to get that 1 spirit gem unless you luck into a drop in this 4 level window, and you're going to get to level 10 before you get to the quest. So if you want to put on triple heralded setup on your Twink ult, you have to buy them, and the level 4 ones are like 10x each.
Damn,
and like
I didn't know that.
And like the second ones are like 50 because you can't do them. So I
had no
really
idea.
don't
New
like
currency
that.
farming strat in hardcore.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't like that. And I also had a solution, I think. And it's something that's already in the game in another form. I think I should be able to use my level 19 or level 20 gem.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And cut a gem for myself on an alt, take it and put it on my level 1 character. And then that level 20 gem just scales all the way down to 1.
Yeah, or you can cut
that's
it down.
the maximum level that I can use. And as I level, it will level with me until it reaches whatever level it was. If I only use level 16 one, it'll stop at 16.
Totally agree.
They've already got it. Poison Concoction, the Hound for the Infernalist, all of the Ascendancy skills already do it. They already do exactly this at every level where it would be appropriate for them to move up a level. They move up a level when you get that level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they've already
I
got
can
the
see them not
great.
wanting to do that though, because they want the weight and all that. But like, I have another compromise, and that would be just if they don't want to do that, they could just allow you to cut lower level skills out of the higher level uncuts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works as well. But like, that's like friction for the sake of friction. There's no reason for it. Like, feel the weight is such a
Feel the
thing.
weight of the level
Leveling
20
a
skill.
Twink
Like,
ult.
obviously your noob character that just
I'm
spawned on the beach can put on a level 20
I'm
skill
gonna
gem.
have to-
It's too mighty. It's too powerful
And I'm
for them to
going to
handle.
have to feel the weight on my main character in maps when I get the item that's worth like, 50 or 60 chaos. I nearly said chaos exalts, and I'm going to have to use it and put expensive jewelers on it to give to my level 1 alt. That's when I felt the weight, is when I earned it.
You feel the vision.
Like, my alt leveling I shouldn't care. I should be able to just be like, here's all the things I want to level. And then for your alt leveling, there shouldn't be an issue of just going, I blast through everything with not a care in the world. If I go to the effort of preparing all of the stuff beforehand, getting my Twink gear, getting all my supports, all my gems, and like just being like, got to town, gonna put on all this stuff I prepared and just zoom and annihilate everything, that should be fine. I shouldn't
I
be
agree.
plagued with friction
second
that
go.
second time round, right?
Yeah. Second go with the Twink should always be a breeze, I think.
Yeah.
That's part of the
Like
fun of ARPGs.
Certainly the first one needs to be a struggle. I like that it's a struggle. That's a great thing. Fantastic. But the second time round, don't give me that. I went to the effort to prepare everything. No, I should be blasting the shit out of it. The whole thing, I should never worry the whole time.
I agree.
Yeah.
It brings
And also-
ever.
brings me to another
Yeah.
point that I want to talk about, if that's okay.
Sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I felt like, especially playing, because I was playing Spark, I had Spark level 1, I used that entire time. But when I was playing the Warrior, I felt like the staggering of the different skills in level requirement was really, I guess, boring. Like, I felt like I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And, I finally got Sunder, you know? I felt like the skills could be a lot more introduced a lot more early. And also with the support gems, I felt like the tier 2 took quite a while to get. It was like, ugh, okay, fine, I got tier 2. But tier 3 took like forever to get for the tier 3 supports. So I feel like they could, maybe with your system, they could allow you to take a high level skill, uncut gem, and cut it, and then it would scale down.
Interestingly, I think that would not be too difficult either, because those level 2 skills you get that are in like the second tier, they start at like level 9. Like, they're already not level 1 skills. The lowest you could put on is 9.
Yeah.
And so if you gave them the scaling down from alts, you could easily just be like, oh, well, what would level 8, 7, 6, 5 all the way down to 1 look like? And then make that some amount of damage you would feel is appropriate on a level 1 character.
Yeah.
I still don't get to do it the first time, right? I still have to get to the point in progression.
Yeah.
But the other part of that is also, I have this same problem with PoE 1. I don't think any skills or support gems should be level gated at all, period. There shouldn't be a level requirement.
I kind of agree, yeah.
On a level 1 skill. There should be progression requirements on skills.
Like what?
So it shouldn't be, I'm not saying that I should be able to pick up the level 28 skill at level 1 on my first character. I'm not saying give me every single skill all at once. I'm saying once I've obtained a skill, I should be able to bring that back to level 1. Right? Like, if I'm leveling, it's for me, that's all about like making different characters. I'm not saying in PoE 1, for instance, I'm not saying, hey, give me Wild Strike, I want to start at level 1 with Wild Strike. No, that's a level like 28 skill or something. I don't remember what level it is, but you know, you have to get there.
I think it's a super cool idea.
You could still make that the like requirement for is you complete this quest in this act that unlocks the ability to buy these gems from the vendor. But now I can buy them all from my vendor in my hideout. I can buy level 1 versions. There's no reason for it to have that level requirement, just the progression requirement to unlock said thing. Right? Yeah. And the same thing to me applies in PoE 2. Like, there just isn't a reason to have a level requirement attached to these. You could still have them in the same tier they're in. I will have to progress my character to the point where the second tier of skill gem level, like skill gem level 9 that unlocks the second tier, drops. So there's no reason for me to not be able to be like, well, I died, I'm in hardcore, or I'm making a new character, whatever. I want to take that level 9 skill and just use it immediately because I've got it. I did that work already. I've been to that level of progression. I have that thing now.
Yeah.
So it scales down to 1.
And I would even add that, because one thing they've done in PoE 2 is they put the attribute requirements extremely strict. So like you can't, for example, at level 1, you cannot put on a caster skill for a mercenary unless you have int. And as you progress, I find, like, for example, I'm a summoner, I'm stacking a lot of strength because I want life in hardcore. Well, no, actually I have to have a lot of ints because my gems are actually out leveling me and I have to constantly have int. So they have such a tight grip on the attributes.
They got you by your balls.
Yeah, that it actually, first, it does a little bit less customizability, but if they argue like that's what we want, then your idea of the level is even better, because even if you scale the gem down, it'll still have a high level rec. So it's like, okay, now this level 9 gem is usable at level 1, but you might have to wear an int Ami for a long time. So it's like a middle ground, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it also gives people like fun new tools to level with on subsequent characters, like after the first one, without giving like additional power, like through insane leveling uniques or something like that. But one problem I see with it is that there might be a situation where literally like a skill that you don't get from your natural progression, one that you have to buy from someone else, or one that you have to have from a previous one, is the best way to level with. And then it's going to be really unintuitive for new players when the guide says that you have to buy this or that gem, otherwise you spend an hour more leveling or something.
That would just be on the build creator. If you're making a League Start build guide, you should have stuff that's available. When I'm making a League Start build guide, if it's not something I can do in solo self-found, I need to like outline the shit out of that. It needs to be highlighted in bold, made text bigger. Here is a thing that you will need to purchase on day one. Yeah. Because that's, you should be trying to avoid that at all costs.
You need a headhunter.
I'm not necessarily talking about starter guides, just in general. Like, I mean, a lot of new players don't start on day one of a league, but like they get into it, they read a build guide, and they're like, okay, the best way to level this is with a gem that you don't naturally get, but you have to do this.
Yeah. Jump in PoE 2, that's not an issue because you can get any gem you want.
But it's also a non-issue.
If they put uncut skill gems on the currency trading market, then it's actually not an issue.
But it's also a non-issue because that's, like you said, it's about build creator guides that have to mention it. Like if phase breakers in PoE 1 was the best way to level, then what? It's like, oh, I don't get access to phase breakers, so I can't do it. Like that's a non-issue. The new player shouldn't have to worry about phase breaker. And if he reads a guide on phase breaker, the guy should say, hey, this piece is mandatory. That's a non-issue from the developer's perspective.
Yeah. What that is a build creator you should stop following. That's what that is.
Right, but before we spend too much time on this topic, we're already more than 100 minutes in. But one thing I definitely need to bring up and need to ask about is, because you're both from hardcore, what's the hardcore meta for ascending? Like, when do you do which lab for which ascendancy? Like,
I think we just got to a point like we kind of forgot about it a couple times. Like, oh shit, we can do our ascendancy, and we just did it. It wasn't really something we thought about until we got to maybe the third one. That's when it was kind of okay. This might be a bit of a challenge.
The first one you do almost instantly. Well, optionally, of course, but I did my ascendancy before the knife guy. Like the first one, it's just so easy. It's easier than the knife guy, so they might as well get prepared for him, right?
But if you're melee, you're kind of fucked, because I got carried by Green Dude. He had minions on the first playthrough when I was a warrior. I don't think I could have done it solo, honestly. It was rough.
Slightly unrelated question. What did you level with on the warrior? What skill?
I was constantly swapping because I didn't really like any of the early skills. Like Rolling Slam was, oh my god, I don't like it. It was just powerful, but I didn't like it. And then I tried is it Molten Strike or something it's called? When you flick up lava.
Yeah, it's like Molten Boulder.
That one was all right, but the damage was pretty low. And the Earthquake, like I said earlier, you got to wait like 3 to 5 business days for any damage to occur. So it's like, I'm not going to use that.
Did you at any point put support gems in your auto attack?
Yeah, I did for a little bit.
Bad news, it's the best way to level.
Yeah, I know. It kind of felt wrong to do it. You know what I mean? It
does feel wrong. It sounds wrong, and I hate telling people that.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah. I ended up using Perfect Strike and I used Bone Shatter a little bit. And eventually when I got Sunder, that was like night and day. I was like, okay, this is my build right here. Sunder, Perfect Strike, one-shotting rares, one-shotting some bosses even. It was great. Nice. And Sunder just feels good. You get so much AoE nodes as a melee character that are exclusive to melee, and the AoE is like massive.
Yeah, I still haven't played Warrior. I'm gonna at some point. I'm leveling one character a week basically, so I'll play everything. But yeah leveling
talk about the passive tree.
Look,
we should talk about the passive tree too. But the Ascendancy, the third one was I don't know. Once we learned the mechanics, it wasn't that hard, really. Was it, Green?
No.
It was
No,
just
it
like
was very
figuring out
easy.
what does the sand do? Oh, there's a sand spiral thing. You don't stand on it, but it wasn't really that difficult.
I think it's also very build dependent. Certain builds
Yeah.
will just there's certain mods in that ultimatum that I just don't care because like no evasion, no ES. Oh, I don't care. I'm mind over matter. There's certain effects that like are you have to dodge. I'm a summoner. I can just focus on those beams while my minions attack. So it's really build dependent.
Yeah, I think melee is probably the ones that struggle the most there.
Yeah.
But they did get some changes in the last patch, didn't they?
Yeah, huge ones.
Yeah.
Made it a lot easier for melee.
And I think on that topic, there's a lot of bosses that if I was designing a boss, I wouldn't do the attack shape or size that currently it is. I would always keep melee in my. So I don't know if you guys know, but I do modding. I run like a Diablo 2 server and I mod the game, and so I make new skills.
I was gonna inquire about that in the intro. Maybe you should quickly talk a paragraph about that so people know.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, I'm a developer on a D2 mod that is online only. So you play with the community, you trade, we have servers around the world. So unlike the original game, you don't choose like a realm. It's a global realm. You play on New York or Path of Diablo. So it's very inspired by Path of Exile, where I implement some of the mechanics there. Like endgame maps are in D2 now, and
melee splash,
skill jumps, melee splash, desecrate, things like that.
Val orbing, right?
Valorbing, yeah.
Yep.
So that kind of thing. And one of the things that I'm always trying to remember is melees. So if I'm doing an attack, I want either put an advantage on melee or not put a disadvantage for melee. I'm always thinking about that. So one example was the monkey. He has a slam that is, let's say, a straight line. Well, if you are standing right in front of him, that straight line is you have less time to react to it. But if you're ranged, you have more time because it kind of drops at a like closer to him first and then later. And then
projectile speed kind of,
and it's telegraphed as well, so you have more reaction time the further you are away. So for example, in that situation, I would make it a cone, because then if you're at melee range, you only have a teeny tiny bit of the cone to dodge left or right. But the people who are far away, they have a massive distance to cover, but they also have more reaction time. So that's the kind of mechanic that I would do, because the monkey, for example, is so much rippier on Willie's warrior, and me as summoner, I can arguably off-screen it, but even if I have to dodge the slam, I have so much time to react. That kind of thing, they've done really well on some bosses, and then other bosses, it's like they've totally forgot.
I also have to agree with what Chad says, that the monkey indeed felt easier for me as melee. Like with the crossbow, you can always try to off-screen or like keep things at bay, but a lot of times you'll also feel way better if you're just embracing this melee range sort of style. And that's how I beat the monkey, is like just dodge rolling diagonally behind him when he did the slam. Or basically any attack when he swung with the, what is it, a column that he has. Stone column.
Yeah, I guess that comes down to like hardcore or something there, because I would never, as a hardcore player, I would never man up like that. Like I would never just embrace it, like you said.
Well, unless you know that that's the best way to do it, but you never find it out by exclusively playing hardcore, which links back to the intro conversation about hardcore versus softcore, where I was like, yeah, in softcore I try things that I would not try in hardcore, where I was like, yeah, I'd already have logged out here or already moved away. I always entertain that idea of, oh, what if I don't, right?
Sure. And what I would say to that is like, maybe the monkey was just a random bad example, so be it. I'm willing to be wrong, but just the idea of like a cone, just keep that in mind as a developer. It's like, okay, well, the melee has a tiny piece of the cone to dodge, and the ranged people have much more distance. So it's just it's not necessarily like that boss you have to think about. It's more about design decisions in general, is what the point I'm trying to make, is consider melee more often. Another problem Willie had, for example, was the knife guy. He has to somehow melee with perfect strike his hand, only his hand.
The hitbox fucked up.
The hitbox is completely wrong. It's like
I was standing in front of the boss, like trying to hit him, like hitting nothing. My mate's going through his chest, like, what the fuck?
I just
Yeah,
had
that's
that
odd.
exact problem on the monk I'm leveling, who's like in twink gear, who's like able to freeze and kill all bosses before they even do anything.
Yeah,
And then I
sick.
came up to that guy and died because I'm like dropping a bell on his head and trying to attack into the air and nothing's hitting. And I'm like, what is going on? And it turns out I didn't know you had to hit his hand and not
I think
his
it's really
entire
cool
body.
that you can hit his hands, but I don't understand why you can't hit his body. Is it maybe like lore reasons? Like he's so colossal and armored that you don't even hurt him when you hit his chest? You need to hit his hands because they're vulnerable?
Well, if you look at other
Exposed.
bosses that are similar, you can hit everything on them. So I think you just need to give him some love and say give him a once over.
Yeah.
I wanted to just talk about we talked about the gems and how it felt like there wasn't a lot of variation and a lot of creativity. Sure, there's creativity there, but it's also mirrored in the passive tree for me. I feel like the passive tree is a lot less inspiring than what it was in PoE1.
Oh, you think so? That's really interesting.
I feel like a lot of the nodes, especially the key nodes, are very unsatisfying with their downsides. You get an upside and you get a downside, which was something I thought should be just reserved to keystones. Like you get a Vol Pact, you get a Chaos Inoculation, you take no chaos damage, but you have 1 life, and I mean, maybe you get autism because you just took a vaccine, but that's beside the point. And there's a trade-off there, but it's a big node, it's a big decision. But for the key nodes, I don't know, it feels very punishing, especially when I was playing a warrior. I was going for like some juicy damage nodes, and I get reduced attack speed on a character that's already like the slowest character in the game. It feels like you're fighting in molasses, and several of the nodes had minus attack speed. I don't know. I don't really agree with that design philosophy that GGG seems to have, where they want to punish their player at every turn. I don't know. I don't know if you guys felt the same. If there's,
I would much prefer that my passive nodes just had less of an upside. If you think it's too strong, maybe just don't make it that fucking strong.
And a lot of passives. It's been a while since I've played PoE, right? Like I didn't play the last like 7 leagues or something, but a lot of the passives now are like you got to be crangled and you got to do your dishes before you get this bonus, and if you didn't do your taxes, you don't get AoE nodes, or like there's so many like conditional passives, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan. Some of them are cool, but a lot of them are really weird.
I don't as much mind the conditional ones when they're significantly more than a normal passive node should be, but I really dislike the ones that are like buff you this way, nerf you this way. Like I really don't like those. I'd just buff me less this way and get rid of that downside. I just don't like them.
Interestingly, I didn't feel that, at least not in that strong fashion, about the passive tree. I felt that about the tier 1 support gems. There was really very, very few that seemed like the straight up improvement to the skill. But like most of them were just like, okay, we're shifting it sideways, but it's not like really making it better or worse. It just changes something.
Yeah, you attack slower, but you deal more damage. Like
yeah.
And
so
I think
that was weird.
I think one thing that they maybe don't appreciate is the fact that some things will have a downside without specifically having a downside. So, for example, there are clusters that are just hard to get to. I'm going to spend so many points to get to it. That is a built-in downside. So why then do those nodes also have to have a downside? Same thing with gems. Certain gems, it's so costly to wear them because it's not an efficient gem. It's not my best option. So why did you also throw a downside onto it when it's already probably like my worst option? So they really need to go back and think about sort of these built-in downsides of like, oh, this is going to cost you a gem socket, or this is going to cost you 7 points to go out there. So why does it also have to have 5% movement speed slow, right? Like these arbitrary,
bro.
That one node in the tree in particular is just horrible. It's like 1% regen when you're standing still and 5% slow.
That's like
what?
It's not even a lot of regen.
No.
And like
it's conditional.
You don't even have any to begin with. Then take away 5 and nothing. What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
easier to fulfill the condition. You're closer to standing still.
Funnily enough, there's also, I don't know if you noticed this, there's also more reduced life on the tree than there is increased,
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
which I just
Yeah.
found amusing.
But
Like,
that's
I
a
knew we
change I
weren't
like, though.
expecting increased life on the tree. I
Mm.
knew that. What I wasn't expecting was for there to be nearly 3 times as much reduced life on the
Yeah.
tree as there is increased.
But that's a
Yeah.
change I like, though, that there's less mana life nodes. Like, it's not path of life nodes anymore. I love that.
Mm.
That's
Oh, for sure.
I love
But it's
that.
path of
except-
strength stacking now, right?
Yeah,
Like you get
yeah.
as much dex
True.
and int as you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
fulfill your requirements, and then you just fill up the rest with strength.
Sure, I
True.
love that, except that my travel nodes for energy shield are 15%.
Mm.
And then my notables are like 60% energy shield.
Yeah, energy shield is
Like,
wild. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Is the thing about the life energy shield stuff is we already learnt this lesson.
Yep.
We had 10% energy shield nodes next to 5% life nodes in PoE 1, and then we realized the entire meta was energy shield because it was way better. And then they ended up being 6% life nodes, and then where there'd be only 8% energy shield, and where there was 5% life, there was 6% energy shield. And you were like, oh, it's just like a tiny bit more, because energy shield was like, and still is to an extent, inherently weaker point for point.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I can just get 100 energy shield or just get 100 life at the end, well, the life is better, right?
Sure.
Like, and it is. So you do want to have a little higher ES numbers.
Yeah, because you can use pots and you can regen. And
But what you don't want to have is a 12% life energy shield node beside a 5% life node. We learnt that years ago. Is that those numbers were way too much. And in this game, they got rid of the life nodes and then gave me back 15 and 60% increased energy shield nodes. And now I'm running around on builds that have 12k energy shield before overflow. And so they get to run around with 24, and the life character in the same level of gear has 3.2. And I've got 24k.
I think
like,
what they
"That's
wanted
not-"
to do here is that they just were like, well, there's no investment into life, but like with energy shield, the way that we want to make it work is you got to invest something, but then we don't want you to put too many of your points into energy shield, so we'll make it really good investment wise, and then they spread it out, and then thought that people take 1 or 2 clusters, but now people are taking all the clusters.
Yeah, because they can get enough damage otherwise, right?
Apparently,
skills are too strong. But
Yeah.
also in the passive tree, I don't know if this is something you feel like you experience, but when you're traveling, like let's say you want to do an unorthodox build and you want to travel. So
Traveling is a lot harder.
It's a lot harder, but also a lot of the nodes have these conditionals. So this only works with melee skills. This only works with range skills. So I can't really like travel with my witch down and get AoE nodes in the bottom because they're all like melee AoE nodes. There's
they did talk about that beforehand and said they wanted to open that up, and like some things are less specific, like the projectile nodes and clusters are generally not a projectile attack or projectile spells, but they work for all projectiles. But yeah. I feel that there's too much specific stuff at the moment as well.
Like the extra opportunity cost if you want to go all the way down there with the witch is the 15 extra travel points you have to spend to get there.
It's a lot.
That's the cost. It's a long way. There's no need to limit it.
Yeah, and then when you're down there, you're looking around and it's like, where's all the cool nodes that I can pick up?
None of these nodes work for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I just don't come here then.
Yeah. Also, I noticed
that's a bit weird.
I've been thinking about a new build, and I want to do spell life leech. And there's only one source of spell life leech in the game. It's the blood witch, blood mage.
Blood mage.
Yeah, that's the only source of spell life leech in the entire game.
Is there no support gem that could make you leech?
No. And there's no mana leech that I can see either. Maybe the monk has something.
It gets worse because it's not just that there's no spell leech. There's also 0 elemental leech.
Yeah.
And every skill on the right-hand side of the tree converts most of your physical to elemental, even if you don't want it to. You can't stop it, which means leech doesn't work.
Yeah, I think monks were actually changing their respecking or like re-leveling because their ascendancy made it unsustainable to go full elemental weapons. You had to go physical weapons.
Yeah, but it's not physical weapons. There's no staff ability to leave me enough fizz to leech.
Yeah.
They all convert 60 to 80% to an element, and you're like, okay.
But can you at least leech mana and then it converts to energy shield or something?
No, it's the same. In theory, but it's the same thing. I need to do physical attacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to come up with an idea, like for the Dark Monk to be like, can I use the Dark Monk and like maybe make it Sunder or something? Because like, I need a physical. I can't use any of the thing. That's just one of my pet peeves is that there's no elemental leech.
They've really limited leech in general.
I am kind of on board with spells not getting leech, especially mana leech.
But my build,
especially mana leech. I'm kind of on board with that.
But we're playing Path of Downsides, right? So they could just make a support gem that gives life leech or mana leach, and it has some downside, like it comes in slower at a slower rate, or maybe it's less effective on or lowers your spell damage. You know, something, right?
Yeah, you might have to spec in some faster life leech nodes or something to make it better. Just give me the option at least. I feel like that's missing right now. Mana leech.
Yeah, they could just leech. Be like, the leech you've acquired works on spells at half value or something. And then you're like, okay, and now the downside is it's half as effective and it took one of my sockets.
Yeah.
But now I could do it.
Yeah.
But we want that creativity.
I really wonder whether there's a solution to that in the so and so many skill gems that are still coming.
Yeah, probably they'll do something, but
that's the big problem, isn't it? Is a lot of these things could be non-issues that are already solved, and we just don't see them yet because we don't have them yet. That's why we don't see them yet.
I feel like that's one that they would have included if they were going to do it, though. Like that's such a key gem. I don't know.
Yeah, because I want to leash with CI, and that's just you can't do that.
That's like forgetting martial tempo for early access or something like that. That would have been a total miss, right?
Yeah, but there's so many crucial components that are missing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that. Like,
it's early.
There's entire categories of skills missing. We don't even have a single class at the Templar start point, and all that, right? So we'll see. We'll see. What I'm really hyped to see, has anyone checked that out with the Witch and the Sorceress who share a starting point? They talked about that specifically beforehand, that the starting locations have 3 different versions based on whether you are class A or class B starting at that point, or another class starting at a different point, so that they don't have this old problem of the starting areas have to be good, but they can't be too good, otherwise everyone paths into them.
Yeah, I played a Sork, and then I played a Witch now for my next character. And now there's like minion nodes there instead of.
Oh, there's significantly different nodes. Okay.
Yeah, like the left side is like purely chaos and minion damage stuff now. And I'm kind of not a fan of that. I think the passive tree should be the same.
Should be static.
Always. Yeah. So
I kind of like the idea.
They could just do 3 paths. It doesn't have to be
3 paths. It's not that bad.
I get what they did it, and I don't think it makes any real difference.
It doesn't really. Yeah, it's just
it doesn't make any real difference to us because it's really literally like the first like 5 points or something. It's just the two little and exits, and we would.
I agree for the
down them on other builds anyway. Like
it would just be more
one
elegant.
of those changes that it sounds weird and looks weird to us.
Yeah.
But to first-time players opening it up makes it a little bit
no difference,
like idiot-proof. Like a little bit more suited to the thing, and I just don't think it matters to us. I think it's a weird change that sounds odd, but is probably an overall benefit, just not one that we benefit from.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they could have just combined the witch and the sorceress and just had one class. Like, I don't see, for flavor, it's cool to have two different characters, but I mean, they're essentially the same, right?
They kind of don't feel different enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool idea to have like 2 classes per starting point that use the same model but have like a slightly different lore background and thematic background. But now you say they could be the same. Yeah. Is like, yeah, why not? Actually, we could have just have twice the amount of ascendancies per starting point. And
although it is worth noting that a friend of mine started the wrong int character.
Ooh.
And didn't notice on the first day until finishing his ascension.
The lab.
And this is like
realizing I can't ascend into the one that I want.
And this is like an experienced, knowledgeable, like 20,000.
Okay, let me guess.
Person.
He started sorceress and wanted to become infernalist.
No. He started a witch and was with every intention of playing Spark.
Yeah, that makes sense because in PoE 1 it's a witch as well, right?
Is it Zenk?
No.
Okay, so I have a friend who did the exact same thing.
Yeah, and it got 2 ascension and then was like, my class isn't here. Have I done a fuck up? And then like, yes, you have done a fuck up. And he was like, like I was just real excited, and like there were minion nodes on the way out, and like that should have struck me as weird, and it didn't. And they were just like, there were markers everywhere, but he was just like so fucking excited to play on day 1, and just I'm making a witch. It's a Spark witch.
It's a witch. God damn it!
But it's not. It's a Sork. Right,
yeah. That's the Sork now.
Yeah,
should have paid attention.
It was quite funny, but also that reminded me of it because like they're the same class. Sorceress and witch is the same thing. It's the same thing with a different accent. Like it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. The sorceress is like someone who like learned magic on the good side, and the witch is the the witch.
Yeah, and a mage is a sorcerer with a hat. Okay, but like that's the same thing.
Yeah, no, what I really think is an issue with that is that, like you said, the people who start the wrong thing because they don't know, and right now we don't even have in the game is like some sort of communication to the player that there are ascendancies and that later you can specialize and that you can't take the same specializations on every class and that you need to make an informed choice. And people learn that way too late into their character if they're new to the game. And in the same way, I think it would also be helpful. I agree with the tree for the large part should be static, right? I don't have a problem with them customizing the starting area slightly, but they need to communicate that to the player. Because if I am a new player to Path of Exile 2 and I go into the passive tree and I see those starting passes and I was like, oh, that would be really cool to path into if I go this way on the tree and if started here and then there, and then you do it and then the notes change on you and you didn't know beforehand that they would change and your entire idea is ruined and you probably already spent an hour or 2 leveling because you didn't check from the start because it's so unintuitive.
Yeah, one solution they could do for that is how we talked about there could be 4 paths, and then the paths that you don't have access to are grayed out. And when you mouse over the nodes, it could say these nodes are sorcerers only. And you would only do that for the first branches, not the whole tree, right? You would that would be the only place where you could get like grayed out nodes would be if you're the wrong class at the start, right?
Yeah, that would be probably the only good way to communicate it, but it would also make the already overwhelming skill tree more overwhelming in the beginning. It was like, why is there more options and why? Yeah,
just let everybody pick them. That's the best solution. Have three paths. Let everyone choose them. Final done.
But that doesn't solve his problem of they're locking into a witch and they don't know the ascendancy. Yeah. So that's why I was trying to fix that.
There were 2 separate problems. But that's one that I had.
Yeah.
But you could also fix that one by how like the ascendancy when you finish it appears in the center of the tree. Well, when you start a new character, that is just like a generic image of your current class. That could already display the 2 ascendancies and just.
I think they should. Yeah, I think ascendancy
put a little blurb about
communicated way earlier. Like you should be able to like look at what's possible for the future of the character.
Yeah, in that circle in the center, you could put the two options there.
Same thing with the
and
skills.
just-
Like you can't even look at the late game skills. Like why can't I like admire what my future character is going to be able to use? Like they're grayed out. You can't even look at the video.
Yeah, you
And
can't
can read
even
the
like
skill,
hit Alt
but-
and click them to see the
Yeah.
video, which
So you
is a
should be
little
able to
bit
see the
annoying.
video. You should be able to see your ascendancies. I mean, give the player the information. They're not that dumb.
Yeah, and there needs to be an advanced checkbox there where I can cut a gem that I cannot wear yet. Why is it I can't cut a gem for my buddy? Because I don't have the int. There was multiple times where I had to give the gem to Willie for him to cut it for me. Like that's ridiculous. I understand as a way to guide new players, but then put a checkbox at the bottom that says advanced mode, and then let me do what I want.
It's in the options. What, really? Okay, I don't know. I need to check that. But I had a similar problem where, like you said earlier, the best way to get a 5-link gem earlier is like to corrupt the 4-link, right? And I needed to carve a new gem of my main skill, but you can't carve a skill that you already have equipped. It won't let you because it's like you already have that skill. It's like, yeah, but let me just make another gem.
Yeah, that one's annoying too.
In game options, cutting restrictions and equipment restrictions
Oh,
are
cool.
Alright,
both
thanks.
things you can untick.
But can you see the
Awesome,
video
brother.
if you change that? That's the
Probably not, but I'll find out in less than 10 seconds.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you for that pro tip.
GG.
Yes, I can engrave the gem.
Can you see
Can
the
you
video?
watch the video?
Yep.
Hey.
Oh,
Watch
okay.
the video.
Perfect. Not an issue.
All right. You also shared 2 more screenshots of outstanding items worth mentioning. Let's quickly, before we have to eventually round things off, I want to have that definitely covered because I always find it cool when people bring material to show on stream. So this is a pretty pog leveling chest with spirit, life, energy shield, armor, and triple res, and with the chaos resist soul cores, right?
Yeah. So this is one that I crafted myself. It was blue with only the 46 spirit.
Nice.
Yeah, we were like leveling. Green Dude was like, around level 40, I guess. And I was calling it a 9. I was like, just peer pressuring him into gambling because he's so cheap with his gold. Like he will never spend it. So I'm like, okay, before I go to bed, you got to go gamble until you get a rare chest. And of course, we gamble, and then he got this blue. And I keep going. I'm like, okay, you got to augment it. I don't remember what you got, Green Dude, but it was something good.
One of the resists, I believe.
Yeah.
But then
And
one of the
it's
better
just-
ones, not the 16 fire.
Yeah. And the spirit is so good for him, right? So I'm like, okay, now you got to wriggle it, baby. You got to go.
Yeah, and then I got the life on the Regal.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that's motivating. Then you keep going.
Just kept going. So that was amazing. It was like day 1, day 2 chest or something. Pretty crazy.
I'm still wearing it now, and I'm like, what level am I?
Level 82 or something?
83.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably wear it if I had that. It's so crucial, though, to get the spirit. Is there any character that's not interested in getting spirit? Or I feel like spirit is always the movement speed of chest pieces, right?
Yeah, I don't really need it because I found that having blink on the weapon swap is actually better than having it on your main. So, because then what you do is you just like weapon swap, blink, go back, and then you maintain your roll. Because if you use both your blinks and you're on cooldown, you can't roll. So if shit happens, you're fucked. So it's better to actually have roll on your main skills.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and the weapon swapping is really fast. It reserves your spirit, does everything for you. So it's pretty much instant, especially with good cast speed.
Yeah, and tell them how you weapon swap because you're not just pressing X on your keyboard, right?
Yeah, I'm actually casting a spell instead. So like I've set a spell to my weapon swap. So it's like Ember Fusillade or something is 0.4 cast speed. So I just cast that, and before I even cast the spell, I've already canceled it by hitting blink. So I just boom, boom.
Okay. But you already weapon swapped the moment that you issued the command to use the skill.
Because
you can get even quicker than that.
Oh yeah.
In your weapon swap, make sure that the weapon swap has a shield on, and then you can use raise shield.
Oh.
And you can set that to your number 2.
Oh.
And that will change the weapon, and then all of your spells can change it back to
right, exactly.
1.
Yeah.
And then you just do weapon swap, and then you've got a defensive shield on while you're blinking, and then back into a spell.
Yeah, there's no delay. Like raising shield, can you cancel it instantly or?
You can cancel it instantly.
Okay,
And it's a faster cast time than even the thing.
Yeah, I'll try that after the podcast for sure. That's awesome. So Blink has become like I can't play without it now. I just gotta have it on every single character. I'll probably use it on my offhand.
Yeah.
Have you guys done any cool like offhand shenanigans with the weapon skill sets? I haven't really used them at all.
No, I've had wet dreams about it, but I actually haven't done anything because I
saw a clip that was really cool where he what's it called? Arcane Seal? Is that the AoE on the ground? The one you like charge up with mana?
I'm not sure.
The one that gives you more spell damage or whatever if you're standing on it. Arcane Sigil, is that it?
Sure.
Something.
Anyways, I saw because the AoE is kind of small and you have to stand in it. So if there's a boss or a rare mob, it's kind of scary. So I saw this guy. He had a weapon set where he weapon swapped when he cast it, and then he got all the AoE nodes. So it was like fucking massive. And then he swapped back to his main attack, and he had like a full arena that he could play in. I thought that was pretty pog, and I'll probably try that.
Nice.
The best ones I've seen so far are just self-cast curses. People just straight into like 24 points into curse affecting curse area.
Well, that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, you got a curse that covers like half the screen with like 50% increased effect. And it's like all 25 points.
GG. That might even be better.
That sounds crazy, but I'd still like to do some really unconventional combo, like when swords are out, like have some bow character that busts out the two-handed sword for single target or something like that.
Ooh, yeah,
I don't know. That just would be so cool thematically, but it's probably gonna be hard to make it work scaling wise because of weapon-specific nodes and like projectile versus attacks, and you'd have to make it.
Right? I don't know.
A nice.
That's where the conditionals are kind of annoying in that sense. It restricts that. But I did see one guy doing it. It was he was doing a bow, doing lightning rod, and eventually he switched to quarterstaff and it was for a boss kill. So I don't know if it's boss specific setup, but for half of the HP he was a bow, and for the other half he was a quarterstaff.
Another slightly interesting use of it that I haven't used myself but have seen was I forget what it's called. Is it just shield charge?
Yeah.
It makes you pushier. Like you can push things away that you couldn't normally walk through.
Right.
So I saw somebody with a weapon swap of just shield charge and a weapon swap, so that when they got like stuck in a corner, and they were like, "Oh no, I'm getting boxed in," and they just like press the shield button, get a bunch of defense nodes on the tree, and then shield charge out through the middle of them to like save themselves.
Yeah, I like that.
That's so inventive, man. People are already coming up with such cool ideas, and we're not even a month in.
Yep.
And like, imagine that will also become a whole lot more layered when we got all the skill gems and support gems that are gonna be there, or that they're currently aiming to bring in.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we'll get expansions with new skills, and
certainly.
Should I show the amulet real quick that you guys made?
That's
What's the
probably
story
the best,
behind this item?
Well, I found it 4-stat, so it's not a full craft, but this is probably the best. Like, it feels like the best item I've found. Like, I feel like in PoE 2, Chaos Resist is just like the chase on items.
I can't imagine any combination of 4 stats on that I wouldn't have been enthusiastic about finding.
Yeah,
like, any potential 4-stat version of this amulet would have me excited. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. It dropped 110 the life, spirits, all resist, and chaos. That's how I ID'd it.
Whoa! Okay, that's probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, and then I exalted crit damage, and then I exalted max energy shield.
And it's also possible to improve it because the crit damage is the lowest tier mod. So there's like an omen or something that you could allow you to chaos only that stat.
Yeah. Omen of Whittling, I think it's called.
Omen is stupidly expensive and rare, apparently. But
yeah, I think I saw it was like 250x on standard or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty expensive.
I just need to find it.
Yeah, that's what Green did say. We got to farm it.
Have you guys...
hoping...
Yeah?
I'm hoping that those omens become like significantly more available because I'm not super happy with crafting.
Yeah, omens
You're not?
and the greater essences as well, but like because just Neversink 2 days ago had this post about how he's played hundreds of hours and he got like one greater essence of fire, like the
Yeah.
essences that are essentially regals, adding a third mod or a second
Yeah.
mod to a blue item, making it rare.
But what he should do is he should take his lesser and then he should put them in the recombinator thingy and upgrade them.
Oh, the
I'm
lesser
sorry,
become
does that work
greater?
with essences?
Yeah. But there's a chance, like you got to do it, and then there's a low odds you get a greater essence, so you can upgrade.
Wait, what? Is that a
Yeah.
thing? Or are
Yeah.
you messing with us? Are you just
100%,
trying to
No, 100%.
make us destroy our essences?
So
No, it
he made me destroy mine, but yeah, it's been proven. It's just that the chance is quite low.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one of my viewers did like over 60, and until he got it, like a little bit over 60 essences.
Okay, I did not know
Yeah.
that, but I was lucky. Like I got 2 greater essences. Like I had already during my 3 days of play on the character only found. I mean, only 3 days of play. I had already found 1 greater essence of but the body. I think it's called. There's the one that
Yeah.
guarantees adding a life mod, and then I found 2 more today. But unfortunately, the first one I found I died to, right the moment I killed it because it was
Oh,
like
so
this
you lose
weird.
it. Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't claim it.
I see why you're mad now. I see why you're mad.
No, I think it's fair that you lose that, but
You've
it's
been
like
traumatized.
I would have liked to. I think losing that is enough, and I would like to still continue the map and maybe get the completion on it. That's
Yeah.
why I'm like a little bit because the way that it currently is, just to reiterate my point from earlier, it just makes me do the map in a really complicated way where
Yeah.
there's a lot of, and that ties back to the fact that we don't have enough move speed to move when we're out of combat. Like I add a lot of walking time to my map. If I first clear the map, then I do the boss, and then I do the essence, and then I do the breach. And yeah. If we could teleport, we get the checkpoints that Balor said
That would be
at the
huge.
points of interest, then I probably let that point fall.
Mm.
And I'm fine with the 1 map per portal.
Yeah, it'll happen. Don't worry.
Yeah, so Balor, did you bring any interesting items that you made?
Sorry. Wisdom scroll crafting? I don't make items.
Really?
Well,
I made this
mean,
helmet. I wish I had a picture of it to show it. I made a helmet with like I think 100 ES and 300 plus evasion, and then it has 180 life and 2 big resists.
Nice.
But I don't know what else it has. But yeah, I'm really happy about that one.
That's
I'm
juicy.
gonna wear that.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about the crafting? Like I've been spending so many exalts and just picking up every single item, transmuting, having a blast, just spending my currency on rolling items, basically.
It's a controversial topic. In my chat, people are disputing whether it's even crafting, whether you can call it crafting. There's one guy who always makes the point.
Why isn't it crafting?
Well, it's a slot machine. It's not. It's
Yeah,
just-
I mean, it's in that way. I mean, after we got the crafting table in PoE1, people have a different perspective on what crafting is. But before that, it was no different than what it is in PoE2 now.
Well,
I think the
had
crafting table is
alterations
the worst
and
thing that's been
scours.
added in PoE1. Like that's my opinion. It's like that's the point where I started getting uninterested because everything's I just pick up the shit item and I go fix it with whatever stat I'm missing. Like it's so boring. Like, that takes away the joy, a lot of the joy from an action RPG, loot-based game for me.
I think crafting in this game has 2 major problems.
Okay.
To make it strictly worse.
Mm.
One, omens fill a gap that's missing, but they don't exist. I can't use them. Even if I could afford them, it would not be worth it. I could make 400 bases that look like that for the same price as 1 omen, where I still only get to use a chaos on it anyway. So it's not like
that's true.
Like those omens just need to be like around for me to use.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then the second thing is minor changes. So minor tweaks, which in the past would have been dealt with by like, hey, here's a 4 transmute cost res craft that just gives you 19 res, and you could just swap that. Now that's supposed to be what the runes do, but it isn't what the runes do because they're permanent. I can't replace them.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I
Means they
wonder
do
how.
not fill that slot at all, though. I've got a character I just finished playing, made it to level 90, had a socket in my boots the whole time, but it's just empty because the piece of gear was like, I'm like, oh man, this is like my good piece of gear forever, and I don't know what I'm going to need in it.
Yeah.
And so I just put nothing in it and didn't even use it. Now I'm level 90 and I'm re-rolling. And it's still empty.
Yeah. I feel you. They should definitely give us a costly way. Like it should cost you something, but you should be able to purge those slots.
I don't even think it should be that costly. I think the soul cores should be permanent, and the runes should just be like, I don't know, for the cost of the rune that's already in it.
Yeah, but
and
that's
a
no
new
cost.
one, which is basically free. Because what that should be is so cheap. It's because the normal runes are all like, here's 12 cold res.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, but now I changed my ring and my new ring has cold res, but now I'm short lightning, and you're telling me I can't just change my 2 runes from cold to lightning to fix that gap? That I should be able to. I should be able to just do that.
I think you should be able to, but it should cost you some money, some gold or some kind of currency or something. It shouldn't be for free.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that. It needs to be a cost attached to it, because the way that I understand the rune system is you get like a powerful upgrade to your item, but in exchange for it, they want you to commit to it, right? Like you permanently socket it and you can't change it. So if they were to remove that restriction of it being permanent, then they'd have to be brought down in power, or you'd have to have a big cost attached to it. And like, but one alternative that I might propose is make like a weaker version of the runes that is not permanent that you could use.
Is 12 fire res a really powerful mod to you?
In the context
But
of
the
PoE2,
flexibility
yes.
is very powerful. Yeah, flexibility is incredibly powerful. That's why the crafting bench is so stupid, because it makes the game much easier, so much easier.
See, I want that small amount of
Being able
like, those are
to
not.
fucking juggle your assists. Just let me
Yeah.
just. That
Yeah.
makes the game much easier, right? Much easier. That's such a struggle getting the resist you need as you're progressing through the campaign. Later on, it's
Sure.
not.
So, but that leads me to the problem of when I replace one item, I now have to replace 4 items.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I want to
disagree
kill
with you that
monsters. I don't want to replace 4 items. I want to kill monsters.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm not agreeing with the free cost of doing so.
Yeah. I'm also like, guys, have a certain ambivalence, because on the one hand, I appreciate that there is a cost, that there is a commitment to it, but I also don't like the idea of it forcing you into this unfun way of playing it, where you just keep the socket open until you're level 90 plus, and you got all your endgame gear together, and you can solve the puzzle. Like, that's also not the right way to do it. That's why I'm saying, like, if there was a weaker version of the rune that gave half the bonus but wasn't permanent, and you could always socket, unsocket it, or override it if that were, like, if you still wanted to have, like, a sync for those. But, yeah. I don't know. I just feel that that's the way that GGG would argue. If we were, like, make them less permanent, they would be like, okay, now that they're not permanent, but we have to bring them down in power in exchange. That's likely what they would say. Sorry,
I don't think they're that powerful. No, I don't think they're that powerful. I think, and also the soul cores have a cost. I don't know in standard, but in hardcore, like they're like 5 to 10x, so they are expensive. So if you destroy them, you've already lost value. And then the runes, I already have so many of them, I don't want to collect them anymore. So I definitely don't want a lesser rune either. I think it's just a question of finding the right, whether it's a new orb, whether it's a recipe, just that destroys the gem and then it opens up the socket. Because I agree with the other problem, which is that I myself had open sockets for so long until I got all the soul cores that I needed. So there's got to be a middle ground, right?
Yeah, there's got to be something. Like, it's definitely not. It's just definitely not right that I felt like I couldn't even use the socket. I just had to leave it there. That's not. That can't be right.
That has to be. I'm pretty sure they'll add some way of removing them. They have to.
Diablo 2 has it. It's just it costs you a hell rune.
Cool. I wouldn't want the cost to be exorbitant either. Like it's got to be.
No, but it's got to sting a little bit when you're fresh in the league.
Yeah, if it was something that like felt a little bit stingy at the beginning, where you're like, oh man, I've already replaced runes twice today. Like this is burning a hole in my pocket. But by 2 weeks in, I was like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah,
that would be fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
10K gold or something. Yeah.
No, more than that. Way more.
Maybe scale with the item level, similar to how respecking cost scales with
that could work.
Your character level. Right?
But then
how many points you already have.
If you're doing that, then it kind of sounds like you're trying to make it viable to just juggle them while you're leveling. Like it has to hurt. You shouldn't be able to swap them for each boss.
Well, it has to hurt, but it has to hurt less while leveling. That's why, because you get less gold while leveling. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like the curve of your gold acquisition in the game is very steep.
Yeah.
It's very different how much liquid gold you have available when you're endgame mapping versus when you're just going through Act 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be really bad to have like a fixed cost no matter the item level and the
that's true.
base.
I see your point.
But yeah, I definitely don't want to trivialize the cost while leveling. As we're running like super long already, but it's such a fun conversation to have. Well, we usually do these like between the 2 and the 3 hour mark, and we're getting closer to the 3 hour mark. And for Valorant,
really? I need to go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but out of the prepared topic list, do you still have something that we haven't touched on that you really wanted to talk about, that you feel strongly about, where you're like, I really want to say this or that?
Damn. Green did?
Yeah, I'm just reviewing the topics just to make sure.
Yeah.
Actually, very quickly though, it's not a big point. It's you said frequency or prioritization of patches, or like just how they're handling patches in general. I think so. First, people who are mad that their build gets nerfed, I think they have to like just remember it is early access. It makes sense that they want to kill things that feel like if you're not playing it, you're missing out. As a developer myself, I have experienced that with my own changes. So, but one thing that they frustratingly didn't do is give them respecs. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. We even know that they have the tech in the game because they've done it for one of the nodes on the tree. So it could have simply been, if you have that gem socketed, you also get the respec, or some kind of condition that they could have just added. So I didn't like how that was handled. But I do hope that throughout the early access, that we actually get frequent patches, because every week it's kind of exciting when one of the bad gems right now that feels unusable gets a little buff. And we only got that one time, but now I'm kind of excited to, for example, like the monk skills got buffed. Now I'm excited to maybe try the monk. I don't know if they're any good, but I would love to get like week to week tiny tweaks,
Same.
That would be really cool.
That'd be so cool.
I'd go as far as to say even more than tiny tweaks, like maces kind of suck. You could have a pass over just all the maces skill, and a lot of them could be made significantly better without even remotely risking them becoming OP.
Very true.
Yeah, I would like them to implement trade client side and not have to use the website anymore. That would be my greatest wish right now. That's it's kind of poopy that you have to go into a browser to play the game. You know what I mean?
And you know what's funny about that is on the Chinese client, they actually did it. You can actually buy an item in game, and it just, like the guy lists it in game, it takes your currency in game, and then you just cash it out. So the tech was there in PoE 1, and they just chose not to implement it.
Way worse, though. It's way worse.
Wait, how is it? Is it like the console version of trade used to be?
Or basically, they don't have the ability to search or look for anything. They can look for like base items. Be like, I'm going to look for 2 stoned rings or whatever the equivalent is. And you just have to look through pages and pages and pages and pages of them until you find the one that suits you. And then you can buy it in the game. I'd rather use the website if those are the 2 options. Thanks, though.
Yeah, I think for sure they both have their own strengths and weaknesses, but you can imagine a world where it's just basically the trade site searchability, but the convenience of if someone's offline, you can buy out.
Yeah, the cross instance sort of thing. Yeah, not only the cross instance, obviously what you said, if they're offline, like being able to have a certain contingent, is that a word? A certain amount of items per day that you can like list for an insta trade or have up for an insta trade. It doesn't even have to be forever, but like just you can have 3 items at the same time that people could instantly buy out, and there could be a heavy gold cost associated with it, just like with the currency exchange, right, where you have to pay gold to do the X for Y trade.
Well, if they still want to have the friction of going to trade, they could just allow you to travel to their hideout and go pick up the item. And that would be kind of cool, because then you would have people like coming into your hideout, picking up shit while you're just rolling maps.
Like a vending machine.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like one specific hideout thing that you need to interact with, and then people make it a job to build the most complicated hideout labs where you have to run through in order to get to the thing where you pick it up from the
that's
waypoint.
funny. That's funny. Yeah. Fucking tower defense trade. That's great.
Yeah. Right. But I agree, more patches, more fixes. Honestly, they're just right now on Christmas break, right? It will probably be way different in early January. They're gonna be making more frequent adjustments. I do appreciate that they really put in a lot of time to get this pre-Christmas patch out. That already helped a little bit with a lot of the issues.
Yeah,
but undoubtedly.
Rip Beetle Farm. I made so much money.
That must have been great in hardcore.
It was amazing. Yeah.
I do want to also say, I think I said it earlier, but it's real important in my opinion. I understand they're going to nerf a bunch of things. I don't even care if they nerf the build I'm currently playing or whatever it is I'm currently doing. But I want you to establish this is the level of power and speed that we're happy to have, and just start obliterating everything in front of that.
Yeah, exactly. And in the same vein, I want them to stick the landing on the next Path of Exile 1 league and give us a real blaster league that embraces PoE 1's identity as a different one than PoE 2. Because now that PoE 2 is out, PoE 1 can be that blaster, zoomer, explosive, clear 5 screens at once kind of game, and PoE 2 can be the ruthless vision TM sort of hardcore ARPG that they always wanted to make, right? But they need to communicate that clearly to the player base, because right now a lot of people are disappointed in Path of Exile 2 because it's not different enough, and the other half is disappointed because it's too different, right? Because there is a certain portion of people who want PoE 2 to be that hardcore thing, and there's a lot of people also who want PoE 2 to just be Path of Exile 1, but with upgraded graphics and upgraded systems. And if they're able to backport the right features from PoE 2 to PoE 1 and make PoE 1 that game that everyone wants, and then have PoE 2 serve that niche of the super hardcore itch, then it could be great.
Yeah. And Jonathan, if you're listening, please let me pause the game in multiplayer, because that shit sucks.
No, Jonathan, if you're listening, please let me do anything while pausing the game instead of just anything that I do while pausing the game, unpausing the game. I don't see the point. Why can I not just press a pause button and change my system settings, my graphics settings?
Yeah. You can do all of those things. You can do all of those things.
How?
I don't know why the escape button doesn't let you go there, but if you just open your passive tree instead of the escape, the game is paused in the background and you can interact with everything. You can open up your settings menus, you can whisper people, invite people to parties, look at your gems, everything.
That's a nice hack. But when you're in multiplayer, you can't pause at all. Both players have to pause.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know. If you can pause when you're solo, you should be able to have a group setting where if the leader or if anyone pauses, it pauses for everybody.
It would have to be the leader only.
Nah, I would
No. It could be a party setting. So you could choose whether it's leader only, not at all. Everybody.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
If they did that,
2 out of 5.
You just default it to nobody can pause the game. and you have to like opt into it because otherwise you will have trolls.
Oh yeah. I mean, you gotta
Like,
choose your friends.
put it on
wisely.
default, nobody can pause, and then let you decide. Hey, in this group, we can do whatever we want. That'd be
We
okay.
don't need to. We
Just
don't
give
need
us
to
the option.
discourage. No need to discourage party play more than PoE already does.
Yeah. Well, on that note, like there's a lot of skill interactions between like people. Whereas like I noticed, for example, the flash grenades from the mercenary, they not
true.
only blind your enemies, but they blind your allies as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
That's fucked up.
apparently. And some other things like that. Where I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure whether that is a good idea to have in a game that already where multiplayer already is being a little bit frowned upon and you need to encourage it. But,
Yeah, when I was playing with
yeah.
Green Dude on his Merc, I could ignite his like bombs with my flame wall. So that was pretty cool. So he could just spam that one attack instead of having to alternate.
Yeah.
So, there's
There's a lot
some.
of cool synergies there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing that the people saying in chat. I saw Balor yawn, and I was like, no, we need to let Balor go.
Yeah,
But this is so much fun. We got to do it again at some point.
Yeah.
Do you want to shout out something? I know you guys both stream, so I definitely want to tell people to tune into your hardcore journey because that's been fun to follow. But is there any specific streamer, content creator, or thing, project that you want to highlight where you're more like, oh, people check that out?
I would say check me out on my Instagram if you want. It's Willy1KHC. I do art full time besides streaming, and I don't know. It'd just be cool to share it with more people. So check that out. Also, I'm on Twitch.
Do you make thumbnails for people? Do you make emotes?
Oh no,
Streamer
I do oil
avatars?
paintings. I do oil paintings.
Oh,
traditional art.
oil paintings.
Yeah. Like proper shit. Yeah, check out my Instagram. You should. Yeah.
Good stuff. And for you, Green Dude?
I don't really stream. I was just streaming PoE2 just to have like a recording in case something happens. So I would just say like if you're a fan of D2 and you ever get bored of a PoE right now and you need a break, we try to time our Diablo 2 resets with Path of Exile. So check that out if you've ever wanted to go back to the game but you want modern conveniences. We have loot filters in D2. We have better graphics now, like enhanced shaders and stuff. So it's worth like reliving that nostalgia.
It's the best version of Diablo 2. Trust me, it's amazing.
Path of Diablo is the name of the mod. I need to get a version of D2 for that, like because now you gotta now that we had you on here, I can't escape it no longer. I've heard about it ages ago already, but I've never really gotten it because I'm a diehard fuck Blizzard non-Blizzard supporter, so I refuse to. I didn't even play D3 or D4 like a single hour, and
yeah, it's sad. I didn't even buy Diablo 4. Like it's that bad. Ugh. And I'm like a diehard Diablo 2 fan, so it hurts me a little bit in my child. But anyways, thank you for having us on. That was really nice meeting you guys in person.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, being so uncomplicated and so it was such a familiar setting. Like it was like you were here always.
Yeah.
But no, it was great to meet you and to share opinions. And like we'll do this again at some point if you're still up for it.
Yeah, we can do like a 2-month post-mortem or whatever of Path of Exile 2.
Yeah, but like I'm worried that in 2 months you're not playing anymore. That's why I'm asking carefully because last time I remember about like 2 years ago when you were coming back to Path of Exile and checking out all the modern developments, I was like, oh, maybe we can do an episode, and then like it happened really quickly that you spiraled out of the PoE gameplay loop, and I missed the window.
Yeah. I don't think it will happen this time. As long as they keep updating and giving us new patches and stuff, I'll keep playing, I think.
Okay, so the undying enthusiasm for the PoE2 early access is there.
Yeah, it's been quite enjoyable. It's I'm really loving it. I didn't think I would love it this much. You were right. We had like a little discussion on Twitter that it would be a little bit closer to PoE1 than I thought. And I think you're right. It's still got that like console DNA in it. But specifically with the potions and stuff, like having the charms kind of changed my mind a little bit. Like it's not that bad.
Oh shit, man! That's another point that I definitely need to bring up on the next podcast because I think ailment mitigation is a problem in the game right now. But we'll see what options we get. Maybe the next patch already solves it. Yeah. Just quickly, let's finish the round on that note. Green Dude, long-term motivation for Path of Exile 2 early access.
Well, it depends on what changes they do. One thing that I really was excited about is doing those new meta gems, whether it was cast on crit, whether it was cast on ignite, that kind of thing. I was late to the punch because I started summoner, and now they're like, I made my second character, and it's just awful. It's really, really bad. I would like to revisit that if they start doing patches in January, because I think they over nerfed the cast on crit. It's actually ridiculously bad. But yeah, otherwise, I just want to try to get to level 90 and see if I can survive.
Sounds great. Balor, you're gonna finish the early access. You're gonna play all the way through.
Oh, man, I don't even know if I'm gonna play the next PoE1 League.
That bad.
I just want to keep playing PoE2. Like
WSD, baby.
Yeah.
Good. By the way, I shat on WSD before it started. I was like, no, I'm never using that. That's trash technology we had 20 years ago. We moved away from that for a reason. And then I was like, I'll try it for one day just so that I can show everybody how bad it is. Whoops, sorry, foot straight in my mouth. I'd fucking chew on my head. It's great. I love it. Everything about it is so much better. I guess fuck me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, it definitely takes some getting used to. My flask hand hurts, but not because I'm spamming flasks, but because I'm spamming WASD. So I don't know how long I'll be able to keep that up. And also there's the limited directions, right? You can only do 8 directions. Whereas with point and click, you can be a little bit more granular as to the angle of movement. But for anything that is able to fire or cast while moving, I think I'll strongly prefer WASD. But if I play like a warrior, I'll probably play point and click.
They also need to fix it, just to do one last point. They need to fix this where you can do a hybrid of both. I don't know why you can't do WASD plus move only on left click, so that in a tough situation, I want to have my fingers on my flask, or if I just want to I want to one-handed because I'm drinking coffee, whatever. Like, there's no reason to separate them like that.
You can't even toggle them. Like, there's no hotkey to toggle them.
So yeah, that's true. That's true. When you're WASD, there's really no like one-handed gameplay, like where you have like you're sipping your coffee and you're just vendoring in town and crafting something, but you can't because you can't move around between your stash and the bench and the vendor. And you always need another hand on the WASD.
Yeah, if I could put move only on left click, and then when I left click somewhere, it just goes there, but also still WASD, that'd be perfect.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm also playing a lot, but I'm looking forward to PoE1 because I'm curious to see what they have in store. Like I said, I expect big changes in PoE1 and a big, generous league mechanic that celebrates, the Path of Exile's identity. But yeah, I'm also not sure how long I'll be able to stick with it and how long it will take until I miss the PoE2 environment.
Yeah.
But one last thing before we say bye, Balor, what was your video about that you made today?
Oh, I don't remember.
You don't remember? You literally recorded it before the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's not a thing yet. That's over the Christmas break. I've got little like helper videos scheduled, so I don't have to work my editor over Christmas.
Oh,
so that's not like a relevant thing right now.
Okay, so you promote it on the next podcast. Fair enough. All right, that sums it up. I'm very grateful for everyone coming here. Thanks to the broadcasters sharing their viewpoints. Thanks to the audience being here. Thanks to the people who do support the podcast. If you do, then your name is shown on the end screen. And next episode will be announced in the next couple days via Twitter, most likely. Or I'm also on Blue Sky right now, as are Green Dude and Willy Wonka. Maybe Balor will join us on Blue Sky. Maybe not. But have a wonderful day. have good loot drops and big Val orbs. And we'll see you for the next episode after Christmas. Merry festivities and see you soon.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.